LoveLore Library. Chapter 585. Life was indeed full of twists and turns. Seeing Shen Miao in a daze, Xie Jingxing said again, "You want to kill her?" Shen Miao recovered to her senses and said, "She and the Xie brothers conspired to kidnap me, and attempted to sell me to a brothel, and prepared a path that is worse than death for me. She also secretly plotted to murder my eldest brother. I am not a saint, and will not repay evil with good. As long as she keeps her life, compared to what she did to me, it is already very benevolent. Vicious and merciless girl." Xie Jingxing smiled unconcernedly, as if he did not feel that it was inconceivable for Shen Miao to say that she wanted to kill a country's princess. He folded his arms and looked at Shen Miao, "But why should I do that?" Shen Miao, she had always heard that when females came to Kuei water, their character would be somewhat moody. Now Shen Miao could not help but suspect that males would also come to Kuei water. Otherwise, why would Xie Jingxing be so moody today, and make one unable to figure it out? A few days ago when Xie Jingxing tried to tie Shen Miao to him, he took the initiative to stand up for her. Now that he was the one who stood up, Xie Jingxing instead put on airs. Even those slippery old officials in the court who had been up and down for many years, would not make one's heart as irritated as this youth in front. She said, "Didn't you already consider me as your ally? Is it not a matter of course to stand up for an ally?" Shen Miao could see that Xie Jingxing was a person who did not play his cards according to common sense. Pei Lang once taught Fu Xiaoyi the art of managing his subordinates. If there was an eccentric official, if he was shameless, one would be more shameless than him. She might as well use Xie Jingxing's own words to block him. Xie Jingxing choked for a moment and looked at Shen Miao. His gaze slightly moved as he said softly, "Even though it is so, not only did I save you, I also helped you to provoke a murder case, and now help you to assassinate a country's princess. Allies are all mutually beneficial, and you do not do anything. To help others unconditionally is husband and wife. I see that you do not treat me as an ally, but as a husband." Shen Miao was exasperated and sneered, "Your Highness Prince Rui is respected like gold and precious like jade. If one is not willing, then forget it. I will not force it. As for Princess Ming An's matter, I will think of a solution myself." "Think of what way?" Xie Jingxing said faintly, "Ask your cousin for help." Shen Miao asked, "What does this have to do with Cousin Ling?" Xie Jingxing said, "What are you anxious for?" "I did not say that I will not agree. Since we're allies, it's not a difficult task. This king can just lend a helping hand. But you have to do something for this prince." Shen Miao glared at him. "TSK, I can't remember." Xie Jingxing raised his brows and sighed, "Help this prince make 2 baskets of pastries first. This prince is afraid that this prince will be hungry during the assassination." Shen Miao, it was only until Xie Jingxing left that Shen Miao sat back on the couch, and at this moment she was not sleepy at all. She also did not know what method Xie Jingxing would use to assassinate Princess Ming'an, but her heart was unexpectedly at ease. Thinking about it, Xie Jingxing's hands and eyes were all over the heavens. He even changed his identity and dared to strut around under Emperor Wen Hui's eyelids. As for taking a princess' life, seeing how confident he was in saying it, it should be an easy matter. But Xie Jingxing's mood today was really not good. Shen Miao was thinking as she removed the cups from the couch. He was so angry that he was somewhat temperamental. In Ming Qi's capital, the Ding capital, after a few consecutive days of sunny weather, it started to snow again. The noble Furens and young ladies were all pampered and the roads were slippery in the snowy weather, so they were not willing to go out. If they were to go out, they would definitely cover themselves up tightly and carry a few heaters in their hands, so that they would not catch a cold. The water in the Wanli Lake was frozen, and even if there were anglers, they would have to dig a hole in the ice before they could fish. It was as if in one night, the trees were covered with sparkling ice. If there was someone who splashed water on the doorsill, there was no need to talk about it the next day when one woke up, it would be covered with a layer of ice, and one would fall down while walking. Chapter 586. It was the same in the residence of Prince Rue. Jiyu Shu woke up early in the morning and fell on his face at the entrance, complaining that the ice in the courtyard was not clean. Ever since Xie Jingxing bought the large residence in Yanqing Lane, other than occasionally going to the Feng Xian pawn shop when Hong Ling showed him the account books, most of the time Jiyu Shu would play with the big cat in the residence of Prince Rue. Seeing Xie Jingxing walking over from a distance, Jiyu Shu said, "Third older brother." Xie Jingxing was too lazy to bother with him. The white tiger broke free from Jiyu Shu's hands and quickly ran over to Xie Jingxing's side. Gao Yang came out from the other side. He did not return to the palace yesterday and stayed in the residence of Prince Rue. "You are going to the Shen mansion to treat the young lady of the Luo family?" Jiyu Shu asked. Mentioning the matter, Gao Yang felt a headache. He had treated many people, be it the imperial concubines in the palace, the emperor, or even the furens and young ladies of the high-ranking officials, but it was the first time he saw someone like Luo Tan. It was clear that a few days ago she was so weak that she was about to die and picked up her life from the line of life and death. At the end, when she was just slightly better, she continued to practice martial arts in the Shen Mansion's courtyard, saying that she was enlightened about Shen Miao's matter and only by practicing martial arts could she protect the people around her. But she did not even look at her own body. With her torment like this, how could the wound heal so quickly? And once the wound healed a little slower, Luo Tan would look at Gao Yang suspiciously and ask, "Are you really a physician from the palace? Why are you not even as good as the apprentices in our Shaochun city's medical hall? After a fall, one can go up the mountain to chop firewood the next day." She actually compared the apprentices of the medical hall to him, an imperial physician, and Luo Tan's injury was not a fall, but an injury that almost cost her life. Gao Yang had never met such an uncooperative patient in his life and did not have any reverence or flattery towards him. If it was not for the fact that Luo Tan secretly went to see Prince Rue that day to threaten him, Gao Yang felt that Luo Tan would have peed on his head. Seeing Gao Yang's rare distracted look, Jiyu Shu used his elbow to poke him. "Why are you in a daze in broad daylight?" Gao Yang recovered to his senses and looked at Jiyu Shu in disdain. "You think that everyone is the same as you?" Xie Jingxing, who was at the side, suddenly spoke. "How is Luo Ling?" Gao Yang was surprised for a moment as he wondered why Xie Jingxing would suddenly ask about Luo Ling and said, "He originally did not suffer any serious injuries." "Isn't it the same? How's your hand?" "Hand?" Gao Yang said, "I can't use my right hand." "Are you doubting my judgment?" Xie Jingxing turned around and looked at Gao Yang unhappily. "Can't you heal his hand?" "Although my medical skills are brilliant, I'm not a divine doctor." Gao Yang felt helpless. His hand has already been injured deep within his muscles and bones. He already had an old injury to begin with, so there's nothing I can do. Without rhyme or reason, what kind of friendship do you have with him? Even if you want to treat the Shen family well, Luo Ling is also a Biao relative, and you even need to take care of a Biao relative. Gao Yang said in disbelief, "You might as well help the world." Xie Jingxing raised his brows. "Who wants to take care of him? Then why do you care about his injuries?" Gao Yang was baffled. "I know that." Jiyu Shu, who had been left hanging at the side, finally found a place to speak and cut in. "I know. I know." He proudly touched his chin and put on an unfathomable look. Young Master Luo was injured because of 5th Shen young lady. If young Master Luo is not well, 5th Shen young lady would inevitably blame herself. Third older brother and fifth Shen young lady have a deep friendship, so naturally one would not be willing to see fifth Shen young lady sad. Isn't that right, third brother, am I right? Xie Jingxing looked at him coldly. Ji Yushu touched his nose and said softly, I feel that it makes sense. Chapter 587. Gao Yang however pondered over Ji Yushu's words and seemed to have suddenly understood something. When he looked at Xie Jingxing again, there was some puzzlement in his eyes. If it is really like this, actually it is a good thing that Luo Ling's hand is injured. In this way, in front of you, he would be dwarfed. Joke. Xie Jingxing did not get angry but laughed instead. Even if he had an extra hand, he would still be dwarfed in front of this prince. Ji Yushu and Gao Yang, did they say something wrong? Why did they feel that Xie Jingxing seemed to be even angrier? Ji Yushu tried to appease Xie Jingxing, of course. Do not see who third older brother is. Prince Rui of the Great Liang, His Majesty's younger brother. Who under the heavens would dare to look down on you? That Luo family is only the young master of a small official at the border of Mingqi and in our Great Liang, that is a sesame official. Moreover, he is currently unable to lift his right hand. How can he be compared to third older brother? Ji Yushu's bootlicking skills were also top-notch as his eyelids did not even blink once. Comparing this prince with someone who does not even have the power to protect himself. Ji Yushu, do you want to return home? Xie Jingxing's voice was even colder. Ji Yushu was stunned. Bootlicking had fallen on the horse's leg. What should he do now? It was Gao Yang who finally found his conscience and changed the topic. The people in the tower prison previously asked how to deal with Xie Changchao's body. Now that Shen Miao has returned to the Shen mansion, what do you plan to do next? Xie Changchao was dead, but the matter of Shen Miao being safe and sound and being sent back to the Shen mansion by Princess Rong Exayan was known by the entire city. This matter had alarmed quite a number of people, but now that it was so easily brushed aside, it made one feel that it was not enough. But since Princess Rong Exayan came forward, it was difficult for the rumors to rise, thus it was gradually forgotten by others. But how would it be easy for the people involved to forget? At least Xie Changwu's heart must be sitting on pins and needles. Xie Changchao disappeared just like that, and Shen Miao, who was abducted, returned to the residence safely. How would he feel? Hearing that, Xie Jingxing's lips slowly hooked up. The next step is naturally to settle the accounts. Gao Yang looked at Xie Jingxing for a while and probed, you plan to deal with Princess Mingyan together. Otherwise. Xie Jingxing casually said, the dogs raised by the Qin country are not properly tied up and go around biting people. If they are caught and killed, one cannot blame others. But Gao Yang somewhat disagreed. Even so, His Majesty had previously exhorted that one must not act rashly during this trip to Mingqi. Currently one do not know what His Majesty's plans are. If one were to touch the Qin country's people, Wang Fu Hao would definitely investigate, and if you were to find our people, even if you have a way, it would add a lot of trouble. Who said to use Great Liang people? Xie Jingxing chuckled, can't I use my own people? Gao Yang was surprised for a moment before saying, why must you take action against Princess Mingyan? It's fine to let her suffer, but why must you take her life? This mad dog has given me a lot of trouble. Xie Jingxing's eyes slightly sunk. Whoever's life this prince wants to take, this prince will take. There is no need to inform you. Finishing, he bent down to protect her and ignored the two of them as he walked out. One did not know what he was going to do. Ji Yushu frowned and said, third older brother came to the Kuei water. Why is he so temperamental recently? Did you provoke him? Who has the leisure time? Gao Yang said, I still want to live a little longer. It seems that this time Xie Changwu and Princess Mingyan will be in trouble. Ji Yushu said sympathetically, so to speak, Xie Changchao really died easily. Most likely he had some good luck. Chapter 588. Correct. Gao Yang rarely agreed to Ji Yushu's words. The residence of the Marquis of Linan in the Ding capital was much more deserted compared to the flourishing scene 2 years ago. There was no longer a long line of carriages and horses, and the number of people who came to visit Xie Ding was getting lesser by the day. There was no choice. Ever since Xie Jingxing died, Xie Ding seemed to have lost interest in the matters of the court. The Xie family, which had been the most troublesome and had given the late emperor a headache, had finally lost its spirit and could no longer make a name for itself. And now in the Xie family, Xie Changwu and Xie Changchao were still climbing up the career ladder. Even though these two people were not as stunning as Xie Jingxing, they still had some abilities. If it was not because of their Shu Sun status, they would have climbed even faster. Even so, to be able to reach this kind of promotion, it made one sigh with regret. In the Xie residence, Madame Fong was handing the newly made clothes to Xie Changwu. Madame Fong was already close to 40 years of age, but she did not show any signs of aging. She was different from Princess Yuqing, who was born in the imperial family. Until now, Madame Fong still retained some of the Jiangnan women's unique, pretty daughter of a humble family. She also spoke softly and slowly, extremely gentle, making one unable to help but love her when they saw her. With this kind of delicate charm, it was no wonder that when the Marquis of Linan, Xie Ding, had a lovely wife like Princess Yuqing, he still ended up on Madame Fong's bed. Madame Fong said, "This is this year's newly made material. One, let the tailor make some winter clothes for both of you brothers. The Ding capital is getting colder every day and both of you are out all day, so one must not catch a cold." Xie Changwu reached out to receive it, thanking Mother. But his heart was thinking of other things. Your younger brother's clothes are also here. One heard that Chang Chao went out to hunt with others. Why is he not back after such a long time? Madame Fong grumbled. Yesterday the Marquis was still telling me that Chang Chao kept thinking of going to the Ministry of Appointments and wanted to bring Chang Chao to meet the Assistant Minister of the Ministry of Appointments to have a chat. At the end Chang Chao was not around these few days, thus one could only let down this opportunity. Madame Fong sighed and said, "Before Chang Chao, you were always thinking about improving yourself. Why are you thinking about playing around now?" Xie Changwu forced a smile and said, "Third younger brother. It is not entirely for fun. It is just that the recent snowstorm is heavy and the weather is cold. Most likely it is not easy to leave the mountains after hunting, so it was delayed. He will be back in a few days and at that time let father invite the Assistant Minister of the Ministry of Personnel to attend the banquet." Hearing this, Madame Fong was somewhat nervous. The snowstorm is strong. Will the mountain be sealed? Will Chang Chao be in danger? How could it be? Xie Changwu said with a smile, "There are many people following and they are all experienced people. Mother, do not worry." Madame Fong was then at ease and pulled Xie Changwu's hands. "Mother, now only have the two of you to rely on. Master had been lukewarm to me for so many years, and in the beginning Xie Jingxing was pressuring you two brothers. Mother's heart is also very sad to see you two suffer grievances. After enduring for so many years, it is fortunate that the heavens have eyes and tortured him to death. Now there is no one in the residence of the Marquis of Linan who can block your path. You can only continue to move forward and step on those people who ridiculed us, mother and son, so that in the future even the Marquis would not be able to ignore your meritorious services and earn a title for mother. In this way, without the identity of a Shu son, the entire residence of the Marquis of Linan will be yours." When Madame Fong said these words, even though she was speaking softly and slowly, there was some unwillingness and resentment in it. Thinking about all these years, she had been suppressing her anger to live. Xie Changwu said, "Do not worry, mother. Since the heavens let Xie Jingxing die early, it means that the heavens are standing on our side. There will be a day when we, mother and son, have the final say in the residence of the Marquis of Linen. Chapter 589. Madame Fong nodded. After sending off Madame Fong, Xie Changwu returned to the room and paced back and forth in frustration. Those words that were said to Madame Fong were naturally to deal with her. It was easy to deal with Madame Fong as she was only a woman in the inner residence, but now that even Xie Ding would ask about Xie Changchao's whereabouts every few days, it was not good. Ever since Xie Changwu returned from the banquet with Xie Ding, he did not see any trace of Xie Changchao. If it was like this, then it was still all right. Perhaps Xie Changchao had some urgent matters to attend to and had to leave, but there was no trace of the person in the secret chamber. This really made Xie Changwu tremble with fear. The secret chamber in the residence of the Marquis of Linen was built by the two brothers, Xie Changwu and Xie Changchao, and it took a lot of twists and turns. Those workers who built the secret rooms were all killed by Xie Changwu, so in the entire Marquis residence, other than the two brothers, no one else would know where the entrance was. Xie Ding did not know, much less the people outside of the residence of the Marquis of Linen. Initially Xie Changwu thought that it was Xie Changchao who brought Shen Miao out. Perhaps he found a way to send Shen Miao to the brothel, or perhaps Xie Changchao had other plans. But after waiting and waiting, the news that Shen Miao was sent back to the Shen mansion by Princess Rong Exian made Xie Changwu immediately felt that it was not good. Shen Miao was saved, but where did the disappeared Xie Changchao go? Those people kidnapped Shen Miao in the secret room. But there were no signs of fighting in the secret room, and it was impossible for anyone else to know about this secret room. Could it be that when Xie Changchao brought Shen Miao out, they were discovered and Shen Miao was rescued? But what was with Princess Rong Exian's words? Xie Changwu felt that he had fallen into a vicious circle. No matter what he did, he was wrong. He wanted to see the person if he was alive, he wanted to see the corpse if he was dead. No matter how Xie Changwu sent out people to search for Xie Changchao, there was no trace of him. Not only was Xie Changchao's long period of disappearance suspicious, in the Qin country's residence, Princess Ming'an flew into a rage when she heard the news of Shen Miao being rescued, and asked Xie Changwu to quickly return to the residence. Xie Changwu could only temporarily make up some reasons to appease Princess Ming'an, but the paper could not wrap the fire, and Princess Ming'an would eventually explode. Xie Changwu was so anxious that blisters formed at the corner of his mouth. He put on his outer robe and planned to let people search every corner of the Ding capital when he suddenly saw a letter on the table. One did not know who placed this letter on his desk, but Xie Changwu never allowed servants to enter his study, thus outsiders were not able to enter. He first looked around vigilantly, but he didn't see anyone. He picked up the letter and opened it. He saw a familiar line of words. It was Xie Changchao's handwriting. Xie Changchao said in the letter that he wanted to bring Shen Miao out to look for a brothel that day, but who knew that they met with soldiers on the way and had no choice but to hide in a private house by the Wanli Lake. These days the news of Shen Miao returning to the Shen mansion was actually a scam that Shen Exian and Princess Rong Exian conspired. The aim was to make the people who abducted Shen Miao relax their vigilance. On the surface it looked like the Shen family's army and officers had stopped searching, but in private they did not relax their search. Thus Xie Changchao did not dare to easily bring Shen Miao out. Now that Princess Ming'an was pressuring him, it would be better to sell Shen Miao to the brothel of the Wanli Lake tonight. No matter what, they would first humiliate Shen Miao so that Princess Ming'an would be happy. It would be best to let Princess Ming'an go along to watch, to make up for the failure of the two brothers. After reading the letter, Xie Changwu believed 70 to 80% of it. Firstly, as stated in the letter, Even though Shin Miao was sent back by Princess Rong Exean and there was an uproar outside, no matter if it was that day when Shin Miao was sent back to the Shin mansion or after Shin Miao returned, she did not show her face outside. That was to say that everyone did not see Shin Miao return with their own eyes. Since that was the case, why did Shin Exean not let Shin Miao show her face outside to make it more real? Could it be that Shin Miao was not found? Secondly, and also the most important point, the handwriting on the letter was undoubtedly Xie Chang Chao's, and there was even the secret communication method between Xie Chang Wu and Xie Chang Chao. When Xie Chang Chao was outside, even in the officialdom, there were very few documents that he personally wrote. If one were to say that it was just based on that, it was impossible to imitate Xie Chang Chao's handwriting. If one were to say that there was, it would be when Xie Chang Chao was practicing calligraphy at home, the manuscripts that were discarded in the residence. There were a lot of those manuscripts, and if Xie Jingxing was still alive, perhaps he would be able to imitate Xie Chang Chao's handwriting. Not to mention whether Xie Jingxing had the intention to imitate Xie Chang Chao's handwriting. Even if he had, it was impossible. Xie Jingxing died on the battlefield 2 years ago, and there were no bones left. In this world, no one would be able to imitate Xie Chang Chao's handwriting. Xie Chang Wu thought about it and walked to the table. He spread out the paper and started writing. Chapter 590. In the Yan Qing Alley, in the residence of the imperial family of the Qin country. Even though the Qin country was better than the Ming Qi, it was not as rich as the Great Liang that they bought all the residences on the street. The location that was close to the street was deliberately distanced by the residence of Prince Rui. Princess Ming'an sat in the room and there were all kinds of exquisite snacks and tea in front of her, but she was not in the mood at all, and her brows were filled with depression. Today there were a number of maids that were scolded by Princess Ming'an for no reason, and one did not know what was wrong with Princess Ming'an. Is there still no news from Xie Chang Wu's side? Princess Ming'an asked her subordinate. That person shook his head. With a banged sound, Princess Ming'an smashed the cup in front of her onto the floor and said angrily, "Trash." The surrounding people were already used to Princess Ming'an's arrogant temperament, and did not dare to even breathe loudly. Princess Ming'an seemed to feel very annoyed, and simply got up and walked out of the room towards the courtyard. One did not know how Xie Chang Wu and Xie Chang Chao did things. That day they had obviously rescued Shin Miao from the hands of the Shin family, but they did not take any action. At the end, Shin Miao actually returned to the Shin mansion safe and sound. When she knew that Shin Miao returned to the Shin mansion, Princess Ming'an exploded with anger. She immediately sent someone to pass a message to the Xia brothers, and wanted to vent her anger on the Xia brothers for not handling the matter properly, but Xie Chang Wu wrote a letter to tell her that he would have his own arrangements in the future. On one hand, Princess Ming'an had to guard against Huang Fu Hao discovering the matter, and on the other hand she was grounded, so no matter how unwilling her heart was, she could only listen to Xie Chang Wu's news in the residence. In the end, after waiting for so many days, she finally could not hold it in any longer and was really angry. She planned to make the Xia brothers suffer the consequences. In this world, there was no one who could mess up the things she had instructed and still live well. Just as one wanted to call people to look for the Xia brothers, one saw a servant trotting over and seeing that there was no one around, he secretly handed a letter to Princess Ming'an. "Your Highness, this is sent by the second young master of the Xie family." Princess Ming'an was startled, as she did not understand why Xie Chang Wu would dare to take the initiative to send a letter, so she quickly opened it to read. After glancing at 10 lines, the gloomy expression on her face was swept away. She tore the letter into pieces in a few moves, and could not see the original contents. Suddenly she was in a good mood as she said to the palace maid beside her, "Go, accompany Ben Gong to pick a bright and beautiful dress, and then pick out all the jewelry from the box. Ben Gong want to choose properly." The maids were somewhat puzzled. Now that Princess Mingyan did not even step out of the residence, who was she dressing up as a heavenly immortal for? Furthermore, why dress up? Even though there were doubts in their hearts, everyone did not dare to provoke Princess Mingyan, and could only go in and help Princess Mingyan dress up. This day passed exceptionally fast, as if time was like flowing water. When night fell, it was already dark in the winter. Not to mention that it started to snow, but it was not a light snow. The snowflakes were like goose feathers fluttering in the air, and the cold wind in the winter was bone-chilling, so even the night watchman left in a hurry. The entire Ding capital was silent. At midnight, the Wanli Lake was completely silent. Most likely the wine shops and music houses were still brightly lit throughout the night, drinking and making merry, but on the streets and outside of the restaurants, there was not a single person. Even the windows of the pleasure houses were tightly shut. In such a late night, the wind was like a knife, making one's face hurt badly. The young ladies were also afraid that the wind outside would freeze the warm wine into ice, and waste the precious wine. In the Wanli Lake, those pleasure boats had already stopped. In winter, the surface of the lake was frozen, and one could not move at all. The boats were frozen in the middle of the lake, and looked exceptionally bleak. Chapter 591. But today, there was a person in the boat that was frozen in the middle of the water. Xie Changwu sat in the boat and rubbed his hands uneasily. Perhaps it was because he had a guilty conscience, or perhaps it was because Xie Changchao said that Shen Xian's people were still secretly investigating, which made him feel somewhat nervous. He did not even bring a hand warmer, and did not dare to light the fire to keep warm. He was already wearing very thick clothes, but it was even colder as it was near the water, and in addition to the fact that there was no one on the boat for many days, he felt the bone-chilling cold wind. Xie Changwu looked outside the boat, and was somewhat anxious when he did not see anyone's figure. Xie Changchao said in the letter that they would meet at the Wanli Lake's boat late at night, and said that the entire Ding capital was searched by people, and Shen Xian's eyes were everywhere, thus it was not safe outside. No one would come to this Wanli Lake during winter, and no one would see it, thus it was safe. At that time, he would bring a few more people, and let Princess Mingyan personally witness Shen Miao being humiliated, thus Princess Mingyan would naturally feel carefree. Moreover, the wind on the lake was strong, and the restaurant closest to the lake would have its windows closed, thus no one would notice the movements at this end. The timing and location were favorable, and Xie Changwu was foolproof. Even though Xie Changwu was somewhat unwilling in his heart, Xie Changchao had already arranged everything, thus Xie Changwu could only accept it. It was just that when it was nearing midnight, he did not see anyone coming, thus he could not help but feel somewhat anxious. Just as he was thinking, he heard a slight movement outside. Xie Changwu's heart jumped in surprise before he joyfully opened the boat's window, and indeed there seemed to be a vague figure coming over from afar, and there was someone on his back. Xie Changwu thought that it must be Xie Changchao carrying Shen Miao over, so he sighed in relief and walked to the bow of the boat to receive. That person got closer, and when he got closer, Xie Changwu felt that something was not right. Xie Changchao's stature was not as tall as this person, and his figure was not like it. His heart was uneasy, and just as he wanted to retreat, he saw the other party lighting a match, and a familiar voice rang, "Xie Changwu, what are you doing?" Xie Changwu looked over in astonishment, and saw that the person who came was a guard, and the person on his back was Princess Mingyan. Princess Mingyan was very unhappy. In the letter that Xie Changwu gave her, it was at the Wanli Lake and it was still late at night. The Qin country was like spring all year round and she was not used to the harsh cold of Ming Qi's winter, and now her entire body was shivering from the cold. Afraid of being discovered by Huang Fu Hao, Princess Mingyan could only bring her own personal secret guards to quietly go out at night. But the place that Xie Changwu chose was inside the pleasure boat, so he could only let a guard carry her over while the rest stayed outside. Princess Mingyan was originally extremely delicate, and if it was not for the fact that she wanted to personally see Shen Miao being unable to live or die, she would not force herself to do so. Seeing Xie Changwu, he vented out all his anger. Xie Changwu said, "Why is Princess Highness here?" "Xie Changwu, are you crazy?" Princess Ming'an said angrily, "Is it not you who called Bengong over to let Bengong appreciate Shen Miao's ugly state? What nonsense are you spouting now?" Xie Changwu was somewhat stunned. Even though Xie Changchao's letter mentioned that Xie Changwu wanted to bring Princess Ming'an along to appreciate, so that Princess Ming'an's anger would be appeased. But Xie Changwu kept an eye out for himself, as he was afraid that there would be an accident midway and drag Princess Ming'an in, and feared that it would be a bad thing. Moreover, today's matter was not foolproof. If Princess Ming'an came over and was unable to humiliate Shen Miao, then what would happen if Princess Ming'an was even angrier? Thus Xie Changwu did not invite Princess Ming'an. But now that Princess Ming'an appeared here, and said that Xie Changwu asked her to come. Xie Changwu did not know why, but there was a strong sense of unease in his heart. Princess Ming'an saw Xie Changwu's puzzled face and became even more unhappy. "Xie Changwu, are you playing with Bengong?" Chapter 592. This official does not dare. Xie Changwu's forehead was full of sweat as he said, "It is just that this official really did not write a letter to your Highness Princess." When Princess Ming'an heard this, she said angrily, "Since you did not write a letter to Bengong, then explain to Bengong why are you here. Just as the letter said, tonight you want to give Shen Miao an unforgettable painful experience, so why did you not tell Bengong?" Xie Changwu was at a loss for words and was secretly surprised. In that letter, everything that he had planned to do was written on it, and it was obvious that only he and Xie Changchao knew about it. If this letter was written by Xie Changchao to Princess Ming'an, why would Xie Changchao do this? He could only say, "This official indeed thinks so, but now Shen Miao is in my younger brother's hands and this official is still waiting for my younger brother to come." Xie Changchao. Princess Ming'an frowned, "You brothers are not together." Xie Changwu did not dare to say the fact that Xie Changchao had been missing for many days and could only deal with it vaguely, afraid of attracting suspicion. Third younger brother and this official acted separately. Princess Ming'an did not have any suspicions, and after thinking about it, she asked again, "What you all said, that Shen Miao returning to the Shen mansion was a scam made by Shen Xian and Princess Rong Xian. Is this true?" Xie Changwu's heart jumped and said, "Exactly." In fact, Xie Changwu also had some doubts, as this matter was only Xie Changchao's side of the story. But now he could only choose to believe in Xie Changchao. Xie Changwu did not suspect that the letter on his table was fake. After all, in this world, other than Xie Changwu, there was no one else who could copy Xie Changchao's handwriting. Moreover, the secret code between the two brothers could not be known by others. Princess Ming'an rubbed her hands, and most likely because it was unusually cold, she shouted at Xie Changwu, "When is Xie Changchao coming over?" Xie Changwu's heart was filled with unspeakable bitterness as he said, "Third younger brother said to come over at the Z hour." "What time is it now?" Princess Ming'an asked her personal attendant. The attendant replied, "It is almost midnight." The wind and snow outside were howling, and it seemed to be able to chill one's heart. One did not know why, but Xie Changwu's heart suddenly felt uneasy. Looking at the pitch-black night sky, his heart raced as if he sensed danger approaching and instinctively wanted to escape. He looked at Princess Ming'an probingly and asked, "Why not your Princess Highness return first? If there is any news, this official will inform your Princess Highness the next day. Do you think this consort is playing around?" Princess Ming'an flew into a rage. "Bengong have already personally come over, and now you ask Bengong to return. Xie Changwu, Bengong can make you lose your head at any time." Princess Ming'an was so domineering and fierce that Xie Changwu could only smile bitterly and no longer speak, but he heard footsteps outside. Princess Ming An's face lit up. Come. The two of them walked to the bow of the boat and saw a group of black-clothed people suddenly appearing on the frozen surface of the lake. These black-clothed people were all wrapped from head to toe, only revealing a pair of eyes, so their appearances could not be seen clearly. Princess Ming An's expression softened a little and said, "It was done very covertly." Following which her eyes swept across the tens of people and frowned. Where is Shen Miao? These black-clad people were all men and there was no sign of Shen Miao. Princess Ming An turned back to look at Xie Changwu unhappily. What is the matter with Xie Changchao? When Xie Changwu saw these 10 over black-clad people, he instinctively felt a chill down his spine. These 10 over people did not look like good people, not to mention that Xie Changchao did not even see Xie Changchao in this group of people. Xie Changwu wanted to escape, but in this world of ice and snow, the surface of the Wanli Lake was frozen, and once one walked on the ice, it would be slippery. Moreover, the lake was so big that there was nothing to hide, so how could it be easy to escape? Seeing that Princess Ming An was displeased, Xie Changwu boldly shouted, "Who are you people?" Chapter 593. The 10 over black-clad people did not speak and just walked closer to them. Princess Ming An finally realized that something was wrong and asked Xie Changwu, "They are not Xie Changchao's people?" Xie Changwu's heart was flustered and did not know how to answer Princess Ming An's question, and could only say, "Did not see third younger brother." Princess Ming An said, "Audacious. Still not kneel down after seeing Ben Gong." Those people seemed to be deaf and were still approaching. Princess Ming An's guards pulled out their swords and rushed into the black-clad people to protect Princess Ming An from the crowd. Princess Ming An finally understood that the black-clad people did not come with good intentions. She suddenly thought of something and looked out of the lake. Where are the secret guards? Where did the secret guards go? When Princess Ming An was carried in, she did not want others to hear her conversation with the Xia brothers, thus she only brought one person, but the rest did not leave and were still a distance away from the pleasure boat. But with such a big commotion, one should have heard it and rushed over to help, so why was there no sound at all? Xie Changwu was also as flustered as Princess Ming An. Today he did not come over alone, and had placed some subordinates in the other 2 pleasure boats, in order to prevent any unforeseen events from happening. But why was there no movement until now? Where were the people? Princess Ming An's only bodyguard was quickly thrown to one side by the black-clad people, but under the weak firelight, blood spurted out from his throat, and he was actually killed with a single stab. The lake wind from the Wanli Lake blew over with the snow, cutting one's face like a knife, but even so, Princess Ming An's and Xie Changwu's foreheads were still dripping with large drops of cold sweat. "Who are you?" Princess Ming An suppressed the fear in her heart and said, "Ben Gong is the princess of the Qin Empire. If you leave now, Ben Gong will let bygones be bygones and spare your dog lives. If you do not leave, do not blame older Crown Prince older brother for blaming in the future." Xie Changwu did not know whether to be afraid or to scold Princess Ming An for being an idiot. Princess Ming An actually said out her name. But thinking about it, today's matter was obviously a trap, and the other party most likely already knew of Princess Ming An's identity, else it would not be clear why Princess Ming An received that letter. But what could they do now? Xie Changwu thought in his heart that he could not shout for help here. Not to mention if others could hear it, even if it was discovered, he was an official of Ming Qi and a princess of the Qin country coming to the Wanli Lake in the middle of the night, he would not be able to explain himself. In a dilemma, Xie Changwu calmed down. He looked at the other party and sneered, "Murdering a princess is not a light crime. If you're not afraid of death, you can give it a try. Have a taste of what it feels like to be chased to the ends of the earth and live in fear like a stray dog." With Xie Changwu speaking, Princess Ming An's heart was slightly comforted. Even though she was afraid, but with her status as a princess of a country, others would not dare to do anything to her. She said, "That's right. Given my status, I'm not someone you people can touch. If you dare to touch me today, the Qin royal family will grind you to ashes in the future." "Is that so?" Suddenly, a man's voice rang out from the crowd in black. That voice was low and somewhat hoarse, but it was as sweet and mellow as a warm wine in the winter, making one feel that it was very pleasant to listen to. Princess Ming'an and Xie Changwu looked over and saw that among the black-clad people, there was a person walking forward. Because they were all black-clad people, they were not able to see clearly just now. But now they felt that this black-clad person was somewhat different from the others. Under the weak light of the torch, this person's stature was obviously taller and straighter, and even if he had the same attire as these black-clad people, it could not conceal the noble air in his bones, as if one could distinguish him from others with one glance. Chapter 594. Who are you? Princess Ming'an said angrily, "Could it be that you do not know who Ben Gong is?" Ben Gong is the princess of the Great Qin. With one order from Ben Gong, one can make all of your heads fall off. Hearing that black-clad person paused for a moment but gently laughed. Even if one could not see the other person's face due to the cloth, it was clear that his laughter was joyful, but Xie Changwu and Princess Ming'an seemed to be able to see the ridicule on the other party's face through the cloth. Princess Ming'an's face flushed red, as she had never been looked down upon like this before. But there were some doubts in her heart, as she felt that this person's voice was familiar, as if she had heard it before, but she could not remember where. She asked, "What are you laughing at?" "Laughing at you overestimating your capabilities." "You?" Princess Ming'an was furious. "What is a mere princess of the Qin country?" That person's voice was pleasant to hear, but the words were nasty. Even if one died, one would still be a pile of bones. "Bold!" Princess Ming'an shouted. "This prince is bold, so what about you?" That person said in a neither fast nor slow manner. "This prince." Princess Ming'an was surprised for a moment, and suddenly thought of another person in a flash. That person also had such an enchanting voice. She looked up and could not see his face due to the cloth covering his face, but the pair of eyes that were exposed were as intoxicating as peach blossom wine, as if there was an affectionate smile in his eyes, but when one looked at it seriously, it was full of indifference. "You are His Highness Prince Rui." Princess Ming'an cried out involuntarily. "His Highness Prince Rui." Xie Changwu suddenly looked towards the black-clad person. He also felt that this black-clad person gave him a familiar feeling, as if he had seen him somewhere before, but he had never thought that it was His Highness Prince Rui of the Great Liang. The black-clad person did not admit nor deny, and in the eyes of both of them, it was a tacit agreement. Xie Changwu hesitated for a moment before asking, "What is the matter for His Highness Prince Rui to come down here?" Even if Xie Changwu racked his brains, he would not be able to think why Prince Rui would appear here. One knew that Prince Rui had no relationship with him at all, and did not seem to have any dealings with Princess Ming'an, so why would he appear here? What did he want to do? Ever since Princess Ming'an recognized that the person in front of her was Prince Rui, the fear that she had earlier completely dissipated, and in a blink of an eye, her eyes were filled with tenderness as she said softly, "Your Highness Prince Rui came here in the middle of the night. What is the matter?" Xie Changwu felt that Princess Ming'an was really stupid. Since the other party had killed the guards that both of them brought, it was obvious that they were not here to reminisce. Moreover, this Prince Rui gave off an extremely dangerous feeling which made Xie Changwu's heart somewhat tremble. Prince Rui did not bother about Princess Ming'an and instead looked at Xie Changwu. "You seem to have something to ask this prince." Xie Changwu forced a smile. "Dare to ask your highness if you have seen my third younger brother." That letter had Xie Changchao's handwriting and the person who came was Prince Rui. Could it be that Xie Chong Chao had fallen into Prince Rui's hands? What grudge did Xie Chong Chao have with Prince Rui? The man in black smiled. I have. Xie Chong Wu's eyes widened. I killed him. When the words were said, Princess Mingyan and Xie Chong Wu were simultaneously stunned and involuntarily shuddered. After a long pause, Xie Chong Wu then asked, "Why does Your Highness Prince Rui want to kill my third younger brother?" He provoked someone that he should not provoke. Provoked someone that he should not provoke. Xie Chong Wu's heart was suspicious. Who? Could it be Shen Miao? The only person that Xie Chong Chao offended was Shen Miao. But why did Prince Rui help Shen Miao to stand up for her? What kind of friendship did Prince Rui have with the Shen family? Xie Chong Wu felt that he had seen the tip of an iceberg of a shocking secret, but because he could not see the whole picture, his mind was in a mess. Chapter 595. For His Highness Prince Rui to come, one do not know for what matter. Princess Mingyan finally woke up from the shock of the other party killing Xie Chong Chao, and seemed to be aware of the danger shrouded in the night. She opened her mouth to probe, but her heart started to beat violently. That person's voice was as gentle as the wind, but also like the ice and snow falling from the Wanli Lake. It looked beautiful but made one feel cold. He said, "With such a beautiful scenery, is it not good to be a place to bury one's bones?" Xie Chong Wu said, "Why do you want to do this? I have no enmity with you, so you cannot let us go." He clearly knew that the other party had the intention to kill, but he had no way out. Xie Chong Wu finally could not suppress the fear in his heart and cried out loudly. No enmity. The other party seemed to have heard a joke. You are too forgetful. Xie Chong Wu, after so many years, you and your stupid younger brother do not know how to make progress. He said. Xie Chong Wu felt that these words were somewhat familiar, and following that, he saw that black-clad person slowly pulling off the mask covering his face. Even if it was an extremely weak light, it was unable to cover up this person's brilliance. Long eyebrows extended to the temples, a nose that was like a hanging gall, and thin lips that had a ridiculing smile as usual. That pair of peach blossom eyes seemed to look over after a long period of time. It was clearly a very gentle smile, but there was a touch of contempt. That was the nightmare of Xie Chong Wu's entire life. Xie Jingxing. Princess Mingyan was indulging in this man's captivating looks, thinking that the face under Prince Rui's mask was really as shocking as the rumors said, but was interrupted by Xie Chong Chao's voice. Xie Jingxing. Was that not the residence of the Marquis of Linan, the son of the Xie family who died in the battlefield 2 years ago, the one that made one sigh with regret? It is hard for you to still remember me. Xie Jingxing smiled gently, but that originally handsome smile was exceptionally scary in Xie Chong Chao's eyes. He turned around and wanted to escape. That was an instinct that came from his bones, like the subconscious reaction of a prey encountering danger, and his brain would not think if it was possible. His body was held down by someone, and his mouth was gagged, making his entire body unable to move. Princess Mingyan had the same experience as him. The pleasure boat was in the middle of the Wanli Lake. It was midnight and there was not a single person on the streets. Even the restaurants that were lit up in the distance were drowned out by singing and dancing. This subtle movement was like throwing a stone into a pool of water. It did not even cause a splash before it slowly sank. Xie Chong Chao and Princess Mingyan were held down by the black-clad people, and could only watch as the leader turned and walked out of the pleasure boat. Even on the icy surface, he walked gracefully. His voice was separated by the snow that covered the sky above the Wanli Lake. It was like the winter's ice that chilled one's heart. The game is over. Shen Miao woke up from her dream. For some unknown reason, his sleep tonight was a little restless. At this moment, he decided to wake up. There was not the slightest movement outside. It was probably the middle of a good night's sleep. She rubbed her forehead and felt that her head was a little painful, but no matter what, she could not sleep anymore. The fire in the room was burning brightly, but she felt that there was some stuffiness in her chest. After thinking about it, she simply took an outer garment from the side and casually put it on. She walked to the window and opened it, wanting to release the stuffiness in her heart. When the window was opened, the shadows of the big tree in front of the window swayed. It was still snowing outside, and large sheets of snowflakes fell down. Some were blown into the room. Shen Miao stretched out a hand and watched the snowflakes gradually melt in her palm. For some unknown reason, she felt a little lonely. In such a night, there was no mood to sleep, and to wear clothes and look at the snow alone, it was indeed somewhat artificial. But her mind could not help but think of some things from her past life, such as Wan Yu and Fu Ming. She felt that the old scars that were deliberately covered up in her heart started to ache. A small flower fell from the sky and just happened to land in Shen Miao's open palm. Shen Miao was surprised for a moment, and with the help of the lantern hanging on the tree, she could see clearly that it was not a snowflake, but a bright red begonia. In this season, how would there be a begonia? This tree also did not grow begonia. Shen Miao subconsciously looked up and saw that in the shadow of the tree, there was a person lying down. Both hands were placed behind his head, as comfortable as a young man. When he saw her looking over, he lowered his head slightly and looked down at Shen Miao from top to bottom. His brows were handsome and his smile was frivolous as he raised his eyebrows. "Why are you in a daze?" Shen Miao said, "What are you doing here?" Xie Jingxing had nothing to do and ran to other people's courtyard to sleep on a tree. This hobby of Prince Rui of the Great Liang was too amazing. "Cannot sleep." That person sighed and suddenly jumped down from the tree and landed in front of Shen Miao. Separated by the window, one person was outside the window and the other was inside the window. He nudged his lips towards Shen Miao's palm, broke a flower and came over to gift it to you. But feared that you would fall asleep, so I waited for you to wake up on the tree. Nonsense. Shen Miao rolled her eyes at him, but saw that even though this person was smiling, he did not look as energetic as he was in the past. Her heart moved, and without knowing why, Shen Miao blurted out, "Come in. There are leftover snacks in the room." Chapter 596. On a winter night, the tea was cold and the snacks were also cold, but that arrogant and handsome youth did not have any disdain. Even if it was an ordinary eating appearance, it was as elegant as a painting. Shen Miao slightly flicked the wick on the table and noticed that Xie Jingxing's clothes seemed to have a cold air, as if he had just returned from outside. She said, "You have been here all along." Xie Jingxing would not always be hanging on a tree in the Shen mansion, and it seemed that it was just a casual remark. Shen Miao did not believe that the dignified Prince Rui would have nothing to do all day. Xie Jingxing smiled without a care. "Did you not let me kill Princess Mingyan?" Shen Miao was surprised for a moment before looking at Xie Jingxing and asked tentatively, "You killed her?" "More than that." Shen Miao did not speak anymore. Speaking of Xie Jingxing's methods, she had tasted it before. 2 years ago when Xie Jingxing was still the little marquis of the residence of the Marquis of Linen, he dealt with those masked people who appeared inexplicably during the Lantern Festival and slaughtered them all. 2 years later in the secret chamber of the residence of the Marquis of Linen, he also dealt with Xie Chang Chao cleanly. Actually at some point, Shen Miao thought that Xie Jingxing possessed the qualities that an emperor should have. But Xie Jingxing and Fu Xiuyi were obviously different people. Most likely it was because Fu Xiuyi could play around for the emperor's position and endure for many years, but Xie Jingxing would be so arrogant that he would directly meet with blades. Perhaps this was the pride in the bones of the great Liang imperial court. Shen Miao thought for a while and shook her head. What did the great Liang have to do with her? Looking at Xie Jingxing again, she suddenly felt that the current situation was somewhat strange. Since when did Shen Miao put herself and Xie Jingxing together? Did she really treat Xie Jingxing as an ally? She asked, what did you do to her? How would Xie Jingxing deal with Princess Mingyan? Shen Miao's heart actually had a little expectation, and this kind of expectation had a little bit of malice. After being in the inner palace for too long, Shen Miao was not a pure and kind female who could not see blood. Moreover, facing such a vicious and merciless person like Princess Mingyan, Shen Miao would not have a shred of pity. That much expectation. Xie Jingxing looked at her in amusement and lazily said, "You will know tomorrow." Shen Miao pondered over the meaning of Xie Jingxing's words. Was it that Princess Mingyan's death would be lively? She asked, what about Xie Changwu? Xie Jingxing even laid his hands on Princess Mingyan, so there was no reason for him to let Xie Changwu off. Sure enough, Xie Jingxing said, kill. You are not afraid that the Marquis of Linan would be sad if he knew about this? Shen Miao looked at him and asked. The fire in the room was burning brightly and Xie Jingxing picked up the teacup to take a sip. His thin lips were soaked by the tea and appeared to be somewhat red, but his smile was as casual as before. What does the family affairs of the residents of the Marquis of Linan have to do with me? It was clearly a cold sentence, but Shen Miao could see a bit of self-mockery from the youth's indifferent smile and her heart moved slightly. From the moment he started to lay his hands on the Xie brothers, Xie Jingxing had truly abandoned all relations with the residents of the Marquis of Linan. Because if there was a day that Xie Ding was able to track his whereabouts, even if Xie Ding originally did not have any enmity towards Xie Jingxing, because of the Xie brothers' death, he would not be able to let it go. Father and son became enemies. Even though they were not biological father and son, but was Xie Jingxing really as heartless as he appeared on the surface? Or was he just hiding all his emotions, good and bad, in that pair of eyes that were always filled with smiles? Everyone in the world had their own secrets that they were not willing to speak of, and Shen Miao had no way of knowing Xie Jingxing's thoughts. In this cold winter night with heavy snow, Xie Jingxing ran to the trees outside of the Shen mansion to enjoy the cool breeze. Was it really just to give a flower to someone, or was it the same as her? It was just that there were no dreams at night, so he borrowed the heavy snow to sober up those unpleasant thoughts. Chapter 597. If that was the case, then the two of them really did have some resemblance. Shen Miao suddenly found Xie Jingxing pleasing to the eye. Xie Jingxing caught a glimpse of her gaze and was slightly startled before saying, "What is that look? Sympathizing with me?" Shen Miao smiled, "I can't even take care of myself, so what qualifications do I have to sympathize with others? Not to mention His Highness Prince Rui, this kind of person who can cover the sky with one hand." Shen Miao said it with some ridicule. Perhaps she herself did not discover that her words had the intention to divert the topic and let Xie Jingxing's heart ease a little. Xie Jingxing raised his eyebrows as he looked at Shen Miao. Suddenly he placed his hands on the table and leaned close to Shen Miao and said with a smile, "You do not need to belittle yourself. Following my ally, one still have the qualifications to be a cut above others." In the winter night, his voice seemed to be deliberately lowered and had a slight warmth as he slowly said, "Of course, if one is a woman that follows me, then one would have all the qualifications." His brows were extremely beautiful, and even in the previous lifetime, Shen Miao had seen countless beauties in the palace, but she had never seen such a good-looking person. It was not that he was good-looking on the surface, but it was as if his elegance was engraved deep into his bones and soul. Every move would make one intoxicated, like a spring flower that could bloom even in winter, making one feel both hot and cold. And when he stared at one carefully, it would give the other an illusion, as if in this world, only one was treated seriously. His eyes landed on Shen Miao's lips and he tilted his head slightly. A smile flashed before he slowly lowered his head. The shadows under the lamp were almost intertwined in a lingering posture. The male was tall and the female was petite, which was a good picture of beautiful flowers and round moon. Shen Miao's heart was slightly sluggish and she pushed Xie Jingxing away. Most likely she felt that her actions were too abrupt and unnatural, so she picked up the herbal tea in front of her to take a sip, but forgot that this tea had just been drunk by Xie Jingxing. She lightly coughed twice and turned her head to not look at the other person's face, but her own face slowly started to heat up. Xie Jingxing was caught off guard and almost fell from Shen Miao's push and squatted down on the chair. When he raised his head, he saw Shen Miao rushing over to drink the tea and the unhappiness just now was swept away and he suddenly felt that it was somewhat funny. He lazily said, "Hey." Shen Miao did not look at him but lowered her head to look at the shadow on the ground. The smile in Xie Jingxing's eyes became thicker as he deliberately teased, "You still know how to be shy." Shen Miao suddenly raised her head and glared at him. However, even this glare seemed soft due to the warm light in the room, making it even more tempting. Her eyebrows were small and cute, but she usually had a dignified air that was completely different from her appearance. It was rare for her to have the demeanor of a young girl. At this moment, she was 3 parts embarrassed and 7 parts embarrassed. Her fair face was blushing as if she was drunk, which made her look even more charming. Suddenly, it reminded him of that winter night 2 years ago. She was wearing a tunic with her long hair hanging loosely over her shoulders. She stood in front of the window in a drunken stupor, pointing at the fireworks. As he thought about it, he could almost smell the refreshing aroma of plum blossom wine in his mouth. Xie Jingxing's lips hooked up, "Shen Miao. What is it?" Shen Miao was suppressing a bellyful of anger. Towards Xie Jingxing, if he were to use force or play some tricks, Shen Miao would be able to face it calmly. But Xie Jingxing treated her as if he was teasing a little girl. It was very bad and Shen Miao did not know how to deal with it. In her previous life, when she was in the palace, people would be respectful and obedient to her in front of her, but when people were behind her, they would point at her. But from the beginning to the end, the people that she came into contact with were all old-fashioned people who scrupulously abided by the rules and etiquette of the palace. She had never met someone like Xie Jingxing who was so arrogant and did things without order. It was as if all the countermeasures were useless under the other party's unconventional way of playing cards. Chapter 598. You are drinking from my teacup. Xie Jingxing reminded. Shen Miao subconsciously looked down and was so embarrassed that she wanted to lift her feet and leave. She suddenly felt that it was her biggest mistake to let Xie Jingxing enter the room tonight. Shy. Xie Jingxing seemed to like to see her embarrassed look and continued to get closer. It is not early anymore. Shen Miao said seriously, you are still not leaving. Xie Jingxing did not speak and stared at her for a while. His gaze was sharp and deep and ordinary people would not be able to withstand it. Shen Miao forced herself to look at him calmly. After a moment, Xie Jingxing stood up and said, never mind. Since you are shy, I will not disturb you. He said it ambiguously, which made one's imagination roam, but he did not see Shen Miao's stiff face. He walked to the window and Shen Miao followed suit. Xie Jingxing opened the window and the cold wind swept in, making Shen Miao shiver. It is cold outside. No need to send me off. Xie Jingxing said, many thanks for taking me in. The tea is very good and the snacks are not bad. His figure flashed and he was already in the courtyard outside the window. Shen Miao walked over, intending to close the windows and doors. However, she saw that in the wind and snow, the handsome young man in purple robe suddenly thought of something and turned his head, smiling gently. Oh yes, you are also cute when you are shy. Shen Miao slammed the window shut. She should not be soft-hearted. This person was too hateful. After Shen Miao closed the window, she sat back on the bed in the room and looked at the oil lamp at the head of the bed. It was so weak that it was almost extinguished. However, her eyes were unusually bright and sparkling, like the best quality pearls and gems, shining in the dark night. She thought that if it was in her previous life, Xie Jingxing's actions would be considered as offending her superiors and she could shout out, presumptuous, and then get people to drag him out and behead him. But in this life, she was so amused that she could not do anything. But why was it so awkward? In the flickering light, the man lowered his head slightly. One could almost see each of his long eyelashes. His eyes were more mesmerizing than the moonlight. His lips were thin and slightly cold. Shen Miao quivered and suddenly recovered to her senses before rubbing her forehead. Most likely it was because she was too tired these days that she was bewitched. With Xie Jingxing's good looks, females would be attracted to him, just like the top hostess in a small brothel. She comforted herself in this way, but she couldn't calm her strange heartbeat. When she lay on the bed, she didn't realize that the corners of her lips had unknowingly curled up. The winter in the Ding capital was exceptionally cold, and the common people who lived at the foot of the emperor, even if they were common people, would feel honored and felt that they were different from the common people in the outer city and were particular about being superior. Not to mention the high officials and nobles. Therefore, whenever it was winter, people would wake up later. Other than the street vendors who had to wake up early to set up their stalls, ordinary people were willing to stay indoors and go out when it was warmer. It snowed heavily the entire night last night and it was even colder outside. Luckily the snow stopped early in the morning, thus everyone was willing to go out. When it was slightly later, the number of people on the streets gradually increased. After an entire night of snow at the Wanli Lake, the surface of the lake had completely frozen into hard ice. Ordinary old men who were fishing were not willing to come over. Not for any other reason, but with such hard ice, it was difficult to even dig a hole. It was better to wait for the weather to warm up before coming over. Even though there were fewer old men fishing at the Wanli Lake, there was a group of playful children. The surface of the lake was sparkling and the children loved to wear hard-soled boots or find a piece of wood to chase and play on the surface of the ice. Most of these children who were playing were the children of the street vendors. Their mothers scolded them for dirtying their newly made jackets and were also afraid that the ice would suddenly break midway. But the children were at the age where they loved to play, so how would they listen to their mothers obediently? As usual, 3 to 5 of their little friends secretly took the pieces of wood to play at the Wanli Lake. Chapter 599. Today was the same. A few 5 to 6-year-old children walked towards the center of the Wanli Lake with the wooden pieces. The surface of the lake was very slippery, so the children had to walk carefully. It didn't matter if they slipped, but if the ice got their newly made clothes wet and dirty, they would inevitably be scolded by their mothers. Therefore, they all walked very slowly. With great difficulty, they walked to the center of the Wanli Lake. The children put down the wooden pieces in their hands and sat on the wooden pieces. One person pushed them from the back, pushing them from the center of the lake to the outside. They felt that they were playing very happily. A little girl wearing a flowery robe carried the wooden pieces and walked to the back. She probably wanted to go further, but she suddenly stopped. "Ah Chun, why are you standing there?" An older boy saw his sister standing in front of him in a daze and couldn't help but ask. "Big brother," the little girl called. Ah Chun pointed to the front. "That ice sculpture is so strange." There were exquisite restaurants in the south of the city, and naturally, there were also some ordinary shops. Most of the owners of these shops had some savings and could be considered slightly wealthy, but they could not afford to rent the shops of big restaurants. But even so, because of the unique location and environment of the south of the city, the ordinary shops were still quite lively. Usually, the shopkeepers or proprietors of the shops were busy with their own things. When they weren't busy, they would always like to sit together and chat and drink tea. And today, it was probably a little early, so there weren't many customers. The shopkeepers of the neighboring shops gathered in front of the door to talk. Just as they were talking, the weather was getting colder and colder. They saw a few children running over at the same time, all of them panting. These children were the children of the hawkers in this area, and they usually played together. The female shopkeeper who sold rouge took a closer look and suddenly frowned. She said angrily, "Dong Zi, did you bring Ah-chun to the Wanli Lake again? I made a new cotton-padded jacket for Ah-chun yesterday, and now it's all wet. Are you itching for a beating?" As he spoke, he saw that the other shopkeepers were also teaching their children a lesson. This was because the group of children were all in a mess. Their clothes were torn and wet, and their bodies were in a mess. Some even lost a shoe. It was as if they had rushed back from somewhere. Just as he wanted to say a few more words, the boy named Dong Zi cried out with a wah sound and said, "Wanli Lake. Wanli Lake, there's someone." When everyone heard this, they were stunned at first. A middle-aged man in linen clothes said, "Oh no, could it be that some kid fell into the water?" There were cases of children drowning while playing in the water at Wanli Lake all year round. There were fewer cases in winter, but it was not impossible. There was once a child who fell into the water and died while playing on the ice surface when the ice cracked and the child fell into the water. As soon as he said that, everyone's expression changed. The female shopkeeper who sold rouge was a warm-hearted person. She anxiously stomped her feet and said, "Then what are we waiting for? Let's go and take a look. We are all neighbors. Whose child fell into the water? Let's go and take a look." When everyone heard it, they all agreed and followed the female shopkeeper to the surface of the Wanli Lake. When they reached the Wanli Lake, they were shocked. One could see that in winter, other than the children who would come, the cold and cheerless Wanli Lake was already surrounded by a lot of people. Most of the people were actually walking towards the center of the lake. Could it be that one fell into the water? The female shopkeeper muttered. If there was any accident, some people would go up to help and some would just watch the bustle, but it was not to the extent that so many people would walk towards the center of the lake. Especially among the people who were walking towards the center of the lake, there were actually many rich and powerful children dressed in luxurious clothing. This was somewhat unusual. It was not that the rich and powerful were not good, but in this world, one should sweep the snow in front of one's own door and not care about the frost on other people's roof. It was common for the rich and powerful children to be indifferent to the common people's matters. But now, when were there so many warm-hearted people in the Ding capital? Chapter 600. At this moment, there were also people walking towards the center of the Wanli Lake. Kai Lin's entire body was shivering from the cold. Even though he was wearing extremely thick clothing and had a fur cloak over his head, the surface of the lake had always been much colder than the ground. Especially the ice cubes under his feet. The cold air penetrated through his boots and drilled into the soles of his feet. Even a pampered and spoiled young master like Kai Lin was somewhat unable to withstand the cold. What exactly is on the surface of the lake? Kai Lin asked his scoundrel friends that he usually shared the same bad taste with. Why is it so early in the morning to let everyone look over here? Early in the morning, Kai Lin found the young masters that he usually hung out with and originally planned to go to the gambling house to play, but who knew that his friends said that there was a big movement at the Wanli Lake and insisted on pulling him over to take a look. Actually, I also do not know. That person said, but I heard from the servants that there was something, so I pulled you over to take a look. Ha ha. He leaned close to Kai Lin and whispered, Normally we only hear about erotic corpses in dramas and books, but today we are able to see a real erotic corpse. Corpses. Kai Lin jumped in shock and quickly said, "I am not going." Even though he usually liked to hunt for strange things, but he would only talk about liveliness, and at the end he was still somewhat timid in his bones. Even though he used to be known as a little overlord, his temper was destroyed by Shen Miao during the academy examinations 2 years ago, and now he seemed to know his place. That friend did not spare him and said, "Since we have already walked all the way here, just go and take a look. Just take a look. What are you afraid of?" Kai Lin could not stand being agitated by others and immediately said, "Why would I be afraid? I will go and take a look with you now. I want to see what is it that is worth you to be so excited." Both of them had already walked more than half the way, and now they were very close to the center of the lake. When they walked to the center, there were already a lot of people pointing at them. His friend pulled Kai Lin aside from the crowd and squeezed to the front before pointing to the thing in the middle. "Quickly look. It is this." Kai Lin raised his eyes and looked up. The winters in the Ding capital were cold, especially in recent times. If a bucket of water was placed outside the courtyard, it would, needless to say, turn into a bucket of ice the next day. As long as something was wet, such as a tree branch or a roof, it would be covered in ice after a night. And in the middle of the Wanli Lake, there were 3 standing ice sculptures. It wasn't accurate to call them ice sculptures. The 3 human-shaped ice blocks could clearly see the human figures on the transparent ice surface. It was also because of this that one could clearly understand that they weren't sculptures meticulously crafted by skilled craftsmen. Instead, they were real, living people. Or rather, they were people who had been frozen to death and turned into ice sculptures before they died. The most amazing thing was the postures of these 3 people. The one in the middle was obviously a woman. Her clothes were lightly undone, revealing more than half of her snow-white body. The man beside her was reaching out to take off her duru, while the man behind her was supporting the woman's waist from behind. The woman raised her head and leaned against the man's back. Even though her expression was somewhat stiff, this ecstatic action was like a living spring scene, making one's imagination run wild. And the people who surrounded the layers of ice sculptures were mostly men. There were commoners and also rich young masters. She was drinking the porridge that was made in the kitchen and thinking about Xie Jingxing's words last night when she saw Luo Tan rushing in from outside. These days Luo Tan's injuries were much better under Gao Yang's treatment. Even though Gao Yang kept emphasizing that Luo Tan should recuperate well, but how could Luo Tan have a calm temperament and still did what she should do? Sometimes it almost made one suspect if the person who almost lost her life a few days ago was her Biao youngest sister. Biao youngest sister. Luo Tan rushed in and sat opposite Shen Miao. Shen Miao did not even lift her eyes and just ate the porridge in her mouth. These days Shen Xian did not allow Luo Tan and Shen Miao to go out, so that they would not meet with bad people like the last time. Thus Luo Tan had to stay in the residence and was strangely bored all day long. Every time Shen Miao met Luo Tan, it was as if Luo Tan was the younger sister, thus she was much more tolerant. Biao youngest sister, do not eat first. Listen to me about a big matter. Luo Tan sat upright. Shen Miao was helpless and put down the spoon in her hands. What is it now? Princess Ming'an is dead. Luo Tan said. Early in the morning, her body was found on the Wanli Lake with 2 males doing that kind of thing. But one do not know why she was frozen into ice. Now the entire capital is talking about this matter. Chapter 602. Princess Ming'an was dead. Shen Miao was startled for a moment. Luo Tan said it over and over again and it was not clear, but Shen Miao understood most of it. There was no doubt that Princess Ming An's death was Xie Jingxing's doing. As for the two males that were mentioned, Shen Miao almost immediately thought of the Xie brothers. As she thought about it, she could not help but gasp. One had to say that Xie Jingxing was indeed a vicious and merciless person. If Princess Ming'an was killed normally, then there would not be any problem. But to place Princess Ming'an and the Xia brothers together in such an erotic way, the focus of the public was not on the fact that she was killed, but the personal relationship between Princess Ming'an and the Xia brothers. Admittedly, perhaps all of this was the murderer's doing, but as compared to a cold investigation, it was easier for the public to talk about such an erotic case. In any case, even if Huang Fu Hao or Emperor Wen Hui used force to suppress it, or come forward to clarify, others would not believe it. Princess Ming'an was a princess of a country, but she was like a female in a brothel that everyone looked at. One feared that if this matter were to be spread back to the Qin country, it would be a joke in the Qin country. Xie Jingxing was indeed a person who was not soft-hearted. As for the Xia brothers, Shen Miao's thoughts slightly sank. Perhaps Huang Fu Hao would be furious, but no one could prove that the Xia brothers really forced Princess Ming'an, because the Xia brothers were also dead. Huang Fu Hao could not take it out on the Marquis of Linan because the Marquis of Linan had lost 2 sons in succession, and was very tragic. When Luo Tan saw Shen Miao's thoughtful look, she could not help but ask, "Biao youngest sister, did you guess something? Who do you think the person behind the scenes is, to actually be so daring?" Shen Miao smiled gently. "I am not good at investigating cases. If one want to know the result, one can just look at how the Supreme Court of Justice investigates the case. No matter what. Luo Tan was a straightforward person. I do not sympathize with her at all. That princess is arrogant and domineering, and one heard that she holds grudges the most. If she was still alive, there would be a day where she would find Biao youngest sister's fault, so it is rather good like this. One do not know which hero is it, to get rid of the evil for the people." Luo Tan rubbed her fists and palms, as if she wanted to make friends with that person. Shen Miao glanced at her and said, "You are very fond of people who commit murder and arson. You are quite broad-minded." Luo Tan said, "Our Luo family has always made a clear distinction between gratitude and grudges." She suddenly paused her words and said, "Talking about clearly distinguishing gratitude and grudges, previously when you were abducted, I went to seek Prince Rui of the Great Liang for help, and in the end he still immediately rescued you. In the future when you are free, youngest Biao's sister must not forget to thank him." Shen Miao. "Thank you for your concern." Luo Tan patted her shoulder but heard Jingzhe walking in from outside and said with a smile, "Young lady Luo, Imperial Physician Gao is here to take your pulse." Luo Tan's face instantly changed and she immediately stood up and said to Shen Miao, "That Biao youngest sister, I will leave first. Think again about Princess Ming'an's matter today. If there is any result, tell me about it. I really want to find that brother." Finishing, she was like a mouse that saw a cat as she lifted her skirt and ran away. Shen Miao looked at Luo Tan's back and sighed as her gaze gradually sank. For Xie Jingxing to make such a big movement, naturally it was to vindicate one's resentment. However, she was after all a princess of a country, and this matter involved many people, so would it really pass by peacefully? Shen Miao did not think so. The matter of Princess Ming'an and the Xia brothers being turned into ice sculptures in the Ding capital quickly spread throughout the entire Ding capital. The people from the Yamen quickly drove away the commoners around the Wanli Lake and released the 3 of them. When Huangfu House saw Princess Ming'an's corpse, he flew into a rage as expected, and even Emperor Wen Hui could not withstand his anger. Chapter 603. Huangfu Hao's face was so gloomy that water could drip out. He sneered, "In His Majesty's territory, my Qin country's princess was actually insulted to death. Ben Gong cannot help but suspect Ming Qi's intentions. Perhaps this consort should quickly report this matter to Imperial Father and have him make a decision. Emperor Wenhui pressed his forehead. Huang Fu Hao's somewhat threatening words made him very unhappy, as if he did not put him, the Emperor of Ming Qi, in his eyes. But this matter happened so suddenly that even Emperor Wenhui himself did not know why such a thing would happen. The Marquis of Lin and Xie Ding also knelt down and said with tears flowing down his old face, begging your majesty to investigate the matter thoroughly. Give justice to this old official's son. The civil and military officials in the throne room were all sighing. In the beginning, the residence of the Marquis of Lin was filled with flowers, and the young Marquis of Lin was so high-spirited that he could even find an excuse to not listen to the emperor's orders and finally married Ming Qi's noble Princess Yuqing. But ever since the time of Princess Yuqing, the residence of the Marquis of Lin seemed to have lost its vitality and gradually declined. Princess Yuqing's flesh and blood Xie Jingxing was a rare talent but was also buried in the battlefield by the yellow sand. Previously Emperor Wenhui also planned to deal with the residents of the Marquis of Lin, but after seeing Xie Jingxing's death, the Marquis of Lin was almost tormented by himself, thus he gradually no longer paid attention to the residents of the Marquis of Lin. Now that the two remaining Shu sons of the Marquis of Lin had died so tragically, there was no successor for the huge residence of the Marquis of Lin, and in the future it would disappear in the torrent of Ming Qi's history. Everyone couldn't help but feel sorrowful when they recalled the glory of the past and looked at the gloomy state they were in today. Huang Fu Hao secretly glanced at Xie Ding, a trace of malice in his eyes. No matter if the Xia brothers were the ones who were killed, or if they were put in such a position after death, there was no doubt that Princess Ming An's innocence and dignity was destroyed because of the Xia brothers. Even though the people behind the scenes were hateful, but the Xia family could not be let off. When had the imperial family of the Qin country ever suffered such humiliation? Huang Fu Hao looked at Xie Ding and made up his mind. Emperor Wenhui had a headache and waved his hands to indicate everyone to be quiet before speaking in a deep voice. This matter is very bad. Someone committed such a heinous crime under the feet of the Son of Sun. This is the most heinous crime. Shen have already sent the people from the Supreme Court to investigate the case and will definitely catch the person behind the scenes and give everyone an explanation. Although he said so, Huang Fu Hao was not very happy. He cupped his hands and said, "Since the Princess of Qin is in trouble, I hope your Majesty will agree to let the people of Qin investigate this matter. Else in the future when one return an Imperial Father ask, Imperial Father would not be able." His words actually showed that he did not believe that the Ming Qi would investigate the matter thoroughly. Emperor Wenhui suppressed the anger in his heart and said, "Since that is the case, je n'approve." Ming was, he said. Ming and said, "Wen yi hao qing, he. But the Marquis of Lin was after all an aristocratic family of Ming Qi, and when he met with this misfortune, everyone came forward to comfort him. Amidst the comforting crowd, someone walked past Huang Fu Hao and warmly said, "Crown Prince, please restrain your grief." This person was Prince Ding, Fu Xiu-yi. Huang Fu Hao was in a state of anger, and when he saw Fu Xiu-yi, his expression did not turn for the better as he cupped his hands and was about to leave. But he heard Fu Xiu-yi speaking softly from behind, regarding the matter of the princess being killed. This one also have some thoughts. One do not know if the crown prince is willing to hear it. Huang Fu Hao was surprised for a moment. At this moment the officials were busy comforting the Marquis of Lin and they happened to walk to the corner, so no one saw the actions between the two of them. Huang Fu Hao sneered and asked, "Could it be that Prince Ding has any brilliant ideas?" One only found something strange. Fu Xiu-yi smiled without much care. "If the crown prince is interested, this one is willing to explore with the crown prince when there is free time." Chapter 604. Huang Fu Hao turned his head back and Fu Xiu-yi smiled before turning to leave. Huang Fu Hao stood at the same spot for a while before turning back to look at Xie Ding, who was surrounded by everyone. With a sneer, he strode away. The people who were investigating Princess Ming An's case moved quickly because it involved the princess of the Qin country, thus the people from the Supreme Court did not dare to take it lightly. But one did not know why this time there was not a single trace left behind. After checking the various scenes over and over, the conclusion was that Princess Ming An and the Xia brothers had an affair. It was just that this result naturally could not be shown to Emperor Wenhui, otherwise not to mention Emperor Wenhui, one feared that the crown prince of the Qin country would be furious. The case seemed to have reached a deadlock. In the Shin mansion, Shin Qiu entered Shin Miao's study and saw Shin Miao casually flipping through the biographies that were bought outside, so he sat down opposite her. Shin Miao glanced at Shin Qiu and saw that he was hesitating to speak, so she asked, "Eldest brother is looking at me, is there anything that you want to say?" "Younger sister." Shin Qiu hesitated for a moment, as if it was extremely difficult to speak and looked rather tangled. Shin Miao felt that it was somewhat strange and asked him, "Eldest brother might as well speak frankly. There is no need to worry." Shin Qiu considered for a long time before asking, "Younger sister, regarding Princess Ming An's matter, was it done by you?" Shin Miao was slightly startled, as she did not think that Shin Qiu would think of her. But she quickly smiled. Why would eldest brother say that? Princess Ming An and the two Xia brothers are things that I alone cannot do. Shin Qiu looked at Shin Miao and his gaze was somewhat complicated. After a moment, he sighed and said, "Younger sister, previously father and mother and I were unable to protect you, and let you live with those beast-like people in the Shin residence. Initially I did not understand what you had experienced, but later I understood. I know that you know how to protect yourself, and also know that you have some means, but we are your family." He said seriously and solemnly, "There are some matters that you do not need to solve by yourself. Tell father and mother. Even though we do not cover the sky with one hand, we can still do our best to protect you." Shin Miao's eyes drooped and put away the thousands of emotions in her heart before smiling, "Eldest brother, you are right. We are admittedly one family, but the matter with Princess Ming An was indeed not done by me. I don't have that much ability, and I don't have that much courage." "Moreover," she retorted, "forget about Princess Ming An, what connection do I have with the Xia brothers?" Shin Qiu sighed and said, "You are still unwilling to tell me the truth." Shin Miao did not speak. Towards Shin Qiu, Shin Miao was actually revealing her own information to him bit by bit. If there was a day in the future when she really reached a point of no return, at least Shin Qiu would be able to understand why she would do these things earlier. However, not everything in this world could be done in one go. She couldn't tell him everything now. "Forget it. I just want to tell you that since I can guess that you're related to this matter, it doesn't mean that my parents don't know anything." Shin Qiu stared at Shin Miao with a serious expression. One must know that Princess Ming An did not have any grudges with anyone in Ming Qi, and if there were any, it would be with you alone. If we think this way, the crown prince of the Qin kingdom will naturally think the same way. In fact, regardless of whether you have anything to do with this matter or not, there will always be people looking at you. Younger sister, you are now in a very dangerous situation. Shin Miao said, "But I have nothing to do with this matter, and even if they investigate, they would not be able to link it to me, right?" Actually what Shin Qiu said, how could Shin Miao not have thought of it? Xie Jingxing could seal the mouths of the entire Ding capital, and let the people in the Ding capital not be able to find any clues, but what would Huang Fu Hao think in his heart? This was something that Xie Jingxing could not stop. Chapter 605. You really have that much confidence? Shin Qiu asked. Shin Miao said, "Do not worry, eldest brother. This matter really has nothing to do with me. Shinchio then gave a slight sigh of relief. These days you better not go out of the residence. The Ding capital is not peaceful, and moreover there are some people with ulterior motives. The residence has already increased the guards, so it should be safe. Shin Miao nodded her head. Shinchio stood up. He still had military matters to attend to and had to rush back. Just as he was about to leave, he suddenly thought of something and turned to look at Shin Miao. Younger sister, do you know any powerful and influential people? Shin Miao's heart slightly moved, but her face was calm as she shook her head. Never. Shinchio did not say anything more and turned to leave. In fact, Shinchio's worries were not wrong. This night, there was a special guest in the residence of Prince Ding. This distinguished guest was not someone else but the crown prince of the Qin country, Wang Fu Hao, who was incomparably furious because of his younger sister's tragic death. In the throne room, Fu Xiuyi and Huang Fu Hao's fluttering words finally made the suspicious Huang Fu Hao decide to make this trip. Before Huang Fu Hao came, Fu Xiuyi let Pei Lang hide in the next room and listened to their conversation through the open dark window. Huang Fu Hao put down the teacup in his hands heavily and did not dawdle with Fu Xiuyi as he went straight to the point. Prince Ding previously said that there is something fishy about my younger sister. Is it possible to explain? Why is the crown prince so anxious? Fu Xiuyi smiled faintly. I also deeply regret that Princess Mingyan was killed. But the current plan is not to immediately catch the murderer. Huang Fu Hao's brows wrinkled and looked at Fu Xiuyi with a sneer. Could it be that Prince Ding also think that Ben Gong should keep the peace? One do not know what kind of rules your Ming Qi has, but in the Qin country, the murder of a princess is a major event. Even if one were to keep the peace, in the future when Imperial Father knows of the matter, he would definitely seek justice from your emperor. It is only a tribute banquet, but my Qin country's princess lost her life here. Does Prince Ding feel that this is reasonable? There was a faint threat in his words. Fu Xiuyi shook his head. Since the crown prince is so anxious, then I will not speak in riddles with the crown prince. In general, there is always a reason for a murder case. In this matter, it looked like the Xia brothers and Princess Mingyan were killed together, but the other party placed the corpses in such a position to humiliate, and it was obvious that they deliberately wanted to ruin Princess Mingyan's reputation. That is to say, the other party is obviously targeting Princess Mingyan. Huang Fu Hao sneered. Of course I know. To dare to do such a thing, you really have guts. There is no harm for the crown prince to think, in Ming Qi, who would have such enmity with Princess Mingyan. Huang Fu Hao was stunned for a moment before he frowned and fell into deep thought. Princess Mingyan had an arrogant temperament, and would usually scold or beat the servants, thus there were naturally a lot of people who had complaints against her. But ever since she entered the Ming Qi, because of her imperial father's strict orders, one must not get into a deadlock with Emperor Wenhui, thus Princess Mingyan was able to restrain herself. Thus even though Princess Mingyan's actions were presumptuous, to the Ming Qi's officials, she did not offend anyone. Unless... Huang Fu Hao suddenly thought of something. His eyes lit up and he asked in a deep voice, "You mean Shin Miao?" Fu Xiuyi smiled but did not speak. Impossible. Huang Fu Hao said, even if she had enmity with Mingyan, and Mingyan had teased her, but Shin Miao was only a female, and there were guards by Mingyan's side. How could Shin Miao deal with them? Fu Xiuyi smiled and shook his head. Shin Miao cannot, but you must not forget that she is Shin Xian's daughter. How does Shin Xian treat this daughter? During the tribute banquet, the crown prince had personally seen it. Chapter 606. Huang Fu Hao remembered that on the day of the tribute banquet, when Princess Mingyan and Shin Miao were in a deadlock, Shin Xian as her father stood on Shin Miao's side from the beginning to the end, and did not hesitate to ignore Emperor Wenhui's expression to show a tough stance. If Shin Xian stood up for his daughter, it was not impossible for Shin Xian's subordinates to act. What about the bastard son of the Xia family? Huang Fu Hao said in a deep voice, even if Shin Xian stood up for Shin Miao, he would not involve the Xia family for no reason. Xia Ding is still an official in Ming Qi, so Shin Xian will not seek trouble. Fu Xiu Yi sighed, does Crown Prince still not understand? In those days, I originally let the Xia brothers entertain Princess Ming'an, and Princess Ming'an was with the Xia brothers. The Crown Prince and the Princess were siblings, so he knew the Princess's temperament. Shin Miao and Princess Ming'an were in discord, and if Princess Ming'an wanted to deal with Shin Miao, it was understandable. It is just that the Princess is after all a Qin country's people and Shin Miao is an official's daughter, so it would be inconvenient to take action. The Xia brothers were used well. Huang Fu Hao was stunned and said angrily, don't tell me you're saying, don't be angry, Crown Prince. I originally wanted to nurture the Xia brothers so that they could be my assistants in the future. However, these two people probably don't have the fate to achieve meteoric success. You should understand what happened next. It was probably because the Xia brothers made a mistake when they attacked, so they were the ones who died in the end. They even implicated the princess. Although Huang Fu Hao still had a look of disbelief on his face, he had already begun to ponder in his heart. First, Shin Miao was abducted for no reason, and at that time Huang Fu Hao suspected that it was done by Princess Ming'an, but afterward seeing that Princess Ming'an did not leave the residence, and did not know anyone in Ming Qi, he did not think much about it. Afterward Shin Miao was inexplicably sent back to the Shin mansion by that nuisance Princess Rong Xian, and then something happened to Princess Ming'an and the Xia brothers. What Fu Xiu Yi said was not wrong. Princess Ming'an had a very vengeful character, and if she was previously embarrassed by Shin Miao, she would not have ended the matter so easily. It was true that the Xia brothers often appeared in the residence during those days. If it was for this reason, it was understandable. But was Shin Miao really that capable? Huang Fu Hao felt that something was not right in his heart. Even if Shin Xian doted on Shin Miao and had this ability, it was not a wise move to openly go against a country's princess. Especially now that Shin Xian had just returned to the capital, many things were still not stable. Even if he did not think for himself, he had to think for the other people of the Shin family. Was Shin Xian so stupid? For the sake of his daughter, he would even throw away his rationality. Huang Fu Hao did not listen to anything that Fu Xiu Yi said. He felt that Fu Xiu Yi's words were somewhat reasonable, but his heart was hesitant. Seeing that Huang Fu Hao was uneasy, Fu Xiu Yi did not say anything more. After Fu Xiu Yi left, Pei Lang came out from behind the screen. What is the meaning of your highness? Pei Lang asked, why do you want to lead the conversation to the Shin family? Fu Xiu Yi looked at Pei Lang and shook his head, teacher does not know about this. I thought that Shin Miao might have some involvement with the great Liang's Prince Rui. Pei Lang's heart skipped a beat, but he maintained a calm expression on his face. Your Highness is still hesitating over the matter of the Crown Prince's residence. Prince Rui is from the great Liang dynasty and Shin Miao had left the capital 2 years ago, so there is no possibility of both of them knowing each other. It would be too far-fetched to say that they were acquainted in these short few months. I know that teacher finds the matter inconceivable. Fu Xiu Yi said, but I have an intuition. There is something fishy between Shin Miao and Prince Rui. There were many coincidences that happened in these days. It was because if Shin Miao and Prince Rui were only acquainted in these short few months, then it would be worth pondering. Prince Rui is proud and arrogant, and even Imperial Father could not get close to him. I also want to know what ability Shin Miao has. Chapter 607. Pei Lang frowned and asked, what does that have to do with the Crown Prince's matter today? Fu Xiu Yi smiled and looked at Pei Lang. Teacher think that Shin Miao alone would not be able to do such a thing and Shin Xian is not a hot-headed and impulsive person. Just based on the Shin family alone, one would not be able to do such a rash act of killing and robbing. Pei Lang suddenly understood. Could it be that your highness thinks, correct? Fu Xiuyi said, I suspect that this matter is done by Prince Rui. Pei Lang did not speak anymore. Seeing Pei Lang's silence, Fu Xiuyi took the initiative to mention, Prince Rui's actions are insolent and the Great Liang has many talented people. Thinking about it, with Prince Rui's ability, killing a princess would be an easy matter. It is just that both of us know that Prince Rui and Princess Ming'an have no enmity, and have no connection with the Xia family, so it is impossible for him to find trouble for himself without any reason. But if it is because of Shen Miao, then everything makes sense. He smiled faintly, even though there is a saying in this world that one would fly into a rage for a beauty, but I do not think so. There must be some special relationship between Prince Rui and Shen Miao. So your highness had Crown Prince Qin make a move to lure the snake out of its hole? Pei Lang asked. Not bad. Fu Xiuyi said with a smile, Wang Fu Hao is naturally suspicious and even if he does not believe my words, he will have more suspicions in his heart and one day he will make a move to probe. If Prince Rui is really involved with Shen Miao, he would definitely make a move. At that time, one would know the relationship between the both of them and then make other plans. Pei Lang asked, if Prince Rui did not make a move, then what would happen? There is no harm. Fu Xiuyi said, if Prince Rui did not take action, the Shen family had already gone overboard these days. It is a good thing for us to let Huang Fu Hao deal with the Shen family and suppress the Shen family's strength. Your Highness has already decided to suppress the Shen family. Pei Lang looked at him. Since you can't be of use to me, I naturally won't leave behind any future troubles. Fu Xiuyi smiled warmly, but his tone was extremely cold. He turned to look at Pei Lang and said, in the future, we will still need Mr. Empress to come up with a plan. Pei Lang repeatedly said that he did not dare. When Fu Xiuyi left, Pei Lang returned to his room and looked at the lights in front of him and could not help but sigh. 2 years ago Shen Miao let him lurk beside Fu Xiuyi to be an informant and Pei Lang had no choice but to go. He himself also had some skills and was lucky enough to gain Fu Xiuyi's favor. Now Fu Xiuyi regarded Pei Lang as the #1 confidant. Just like today when he and Huang Fu Hao were playing the third flower secretly, Fu Xiuyi did not deceive Pei Lang at all and instead trusted him. Perhaps this was really because Fu Xiuyi did not guard against Pei Lang at all. Of course it could be because of Fu Xiuyi's skill in controlling his subordinates. If a normal person saw their master treating them so generously, they would definitely have a more loyal heart, if Pei Lang was not Shen Miao's person. The more he interacted with Fu Xiuyi, the more Pei Lang was amazed. Fu Xiuyi was indeed a person who had the wisdom and the viciousness of a real man. Hiding a dagger in his smile or willing to be mediocre, he indeed had the means that an emperor should have. Pei Lang even felt that after a few more years or decades, the world would eventually fall into the hands of Fu Xiuyi and Fu Xiuyi would eventually become the master of the world. There was no other reason but among the princes of Mingqi, there was no one more suitable than Fu Xiuyi for this position. But Shen Miao purposely wanted to go against Fu Xiuyi. Pei Lang was not optimistic about Shen Miao, which also meant that he was not optimistic about himself. It was not that he did not selfishly think of defecting but Shen Miao firmly grasped his Achilles heel. Thus this little bit of unwillingness could only drift away with the wind. He took a glance out of the window. Fu Xiuyi treated him extremely well. In a separate room, there were no spies placed to guard against him. Pei Lang took a piece of paper from the table and grinded it before picking up a brush and quickly writing. The night was as dark as ink. In the residence of Prince Rui, Xie Jingxing was teasing the white tiger at his feet. The white tiger had eaten a lot recently and was fed by Gu Shu 5 meals a day. Its body started to swell rapidly and was like an out-and-out fur bowl. Even when it was playing, it was not as agile as in the past and always had a look of stupidity. Xie Jingxing was such a picky person that he was too lazy to even carry it and was rather perfunctory when teasing it. A male who looked like a guard walked in from outside and was much younger than Tai Yi. He took out a letter from his bosom and handed it to Xie Jingxing. This is a letter that came out from the residence of Prince Ding and is from Prince Ding's aide, Pei Lang. It is to be sent to the hands of 5th Shin young lady of the Shin mansion. Xie Jingxing raised his eyebrows and took out the letter from the envelope. He quickly scanned through it, and when he saw the last line of words, his lips suddenly hooked up. In the night, his brows were as handsome as a painting and his purple gold robe was overflowing with color, as if he was a person in a painting wearing embroidered clothes. It was clearly a casual smile, but Nan Chi shivered slightly as he sensitively sensed that his master was unhappy again. The last line of words was, "Be sure to stay away from Prince Rui." Chapter 608. The matter of Princess Mingyan in the Ding capital had set off an uproar among the commoners, but the people from the Supreme Court of Justice were unable to find any results after a long time. Emperor Wen Hui would get angry every few days and even implicated a number of officials, but there was a faint unsettled result. The crown prince of the Qin country, Wang Fu Hao, was naturally dissatisfied, but the people that he sent out did not find anything wrong. As time passed, the common people's enthusiasm for this matter gradually faded. After all, one had to eat and live, and one could not withstand the cold of winter even if one guarded an unsettled case. In the cold winter days of the Ding capital, there was a big matter in the Shin residence. Shin Yu was engaged and would soon be married off. The family that Shin Yu was talking about was the Minister of Land, the Wang family that Shin Wan and Qin Roqiu favored. The Wang family only had 2 sons and the younger son was not even 10 years old. The eldest son was Wang Bai, the person who was engaged to Shin Yu. Wang Bai was 24 this year and had already entered officialdom, holding a position in the scholar's residence. He was knowledgeable and was a person with boundless prospects. Even though the position of the Minister of Land was not one of the most important officials in the court, it was inevitable that the colleagues would have more dealings with the Minister of Land. If one was related to the Wang family, there would be a lot of help in one's future career. The help in one's career was naturally seen through Shin Wan's eyes. From Qin Roqiu's point of view, Wang Bai was the eldest son of the Wang family and currently there were no Tongfang concubines in the residence. Coincidentally, Shin Yu was well educated and had a strong bookish taste, so if she was able to marry over, she would be able to hold on to Wang Bai's heart, and in the future she would be able to stand firm in the Wang family and give birth to a son and a daughter. Then she would be able to rest easy for the rest of her life. The marriage was directly set by Qin Roqiu and the Wang family, and the gung card was changed. When Shin Yu knew about the matter, she naturally made a big fuss. It was just that the usually gentle Qin Roqiu seemed to be determined to marry her off, and Shin Wan, who had always doted on her, did not listen to Shin Yu's pleas. Old Shin Furen was even more happy to see it happen. If Shin Yu did not marry in the Shin residence, she would have one more mouth to eat, and now the days in the Shin residence were difficult. Shin Yu was too noisy, and even if Shin Wan usually did not punish his daughter, this time he felt that Shin Yu was too much, and in a fit of anger, he locked Shin Yu in the ancestral hall and wanted Shin Yu to reflect on herself. This night, Shin Yu sat alone in the ancestral hall and cried silently. There were traces of fire in the ancestral hall. It was ironic to say that the last time Shin Miao was locked up in this ancestral hall, Ren Wanyun attempted to make Shin Miao marry and take the opportunity to exchange marriage with Shin Qing. Who knew that there was a fire midway, and coincidentally Shin Axian left the capital at that time, thus Shin Miao escaped a calamity. Shin Yu looked at the tightly closed doors of the ancestral hall. It seemed that from that time onwards, everything went smoothly for Shin Miao. Because Shin Axayan and wife and Shin Chio were behind Shin Miao to support her, Shin Miao was unscrupulous in whatever she did. Shin Yu believed that if there was a day that Shin Miao wanted to marry Fu Xiu-yi, Shin Axayan and wife would not be like Chen Ro-chio and Shin Wan to stop it. And Shin Miao indeed admired Fu Xiu-yi in the past, and if there was a day that Shin Miao's old love was rekindled and the current Shin Axayan made a comeback with power in his hands, would Fu Xiu-yi reject? Moreover, Shin Miao was no longer the idiot that was ridiculed by the entire capital 2 years ago. Once she thought that Shin Miao might be together with Fu Xiu-yi, Shin Yu's heart was particularly uncomfortable. She unwillingly thought, why did Shin Miao not burn to death during the fire in the ancestral hall? Just as she was thinking, she heard the sound of the doorknob moving outside. Shin Yu thought that it was Chen Ro-chio who sent someone to deliver food to her and said in a fit of pique, "I do not want anything. Go out." That sound continued and Shin Yu angrily said, "Ask you to scram." Chapter 609. The door creaked open and a head popped out. It was Shin Dongling. The moment she saw Shin Dongling, Shin Yu was also surprised for a moment. Shin Dongling looked outside and suddenly closed the door and walked to Shin Yu. After thinking for a while, she also sat down on the floor and handed the basket in her hands to Shin Yu before softly saying, "The old woman guarding outside had gone to drink and I sneaked in. Knowing that you had not eaten for a day, I was afraid that you would be hungry, so I sent you something to eat. Second sister, you must lower your voice." Shin Yu was startled for a moment and saw that Shin Dongling had already opened the bamboo basket and took out stacks and stacks of snacks. Even if Shin Yu was only perfunctory towards Shin Dongling on normal days, there was a trace of being touched now. Thinking that she had not eaten for a day and Chen Ro-chio and Shin Wan did not care about it, but this Shu younger sister whom she did not have a deep relationship with was concerned, her expression towards Shin Dongling became warmer. However, he couldn't eat those pastries no matter what. She said, "Don't waste your energy, I really can't eat anymore." Shin Dongling looked at her. Why is second sister not willing to marry young Master Wang? Wang Gongzi is a good person and I heard that his family background is good. If second sister goes there, she will be the mistress of the family. Is it because you don't want to leave the Shin family? Shin Yu glanced at Shin Dongling. Most likely Shin Dongling stayed in the residence and did not go out much. She was obviously around the same age as Shin Yu, but her face had the innocence of a child. Shin Yu's heart was despising and envious at the same time, despising Shin Dongling for being a frog in the well and not knowing that there was always someone better than her in the heavens. Just one Wang Bai was able to move her, and on the other hand she was envious of Shin Dongling's pure mind, which was more relaxed and happy. Seeing Shin Dongling's appearance, Shin Yu suddenly had the urge to spit it out. She smiled bitterly and said, "What does it have to do with me whether he is a good person or not? After all, he is not that person in my heart." Shin Dongling thought for a while and suddenly said, "Could it be? Second sister already has someone in your heart. So what if I am? So what if I'm not?" Shin Yu smiled bitterly. "Who asked me to be born in the Shin family and do not even have the right to choose my future husband? Father and mother only cared about their own careers and didn't care about what I thought. Sometimes, I feel that I might as well be dead." Shin Dongling jumped in fright and hurriedly waved her hands, saying, "Second Jijie, don't think like that. You have to know that in this world, death is the cheapest, but there's nothing left after death. Why don't Jijie change your way of thinking? You should know that the Wang family is not a bad family. Third uncle and third aunt will not harm you. Perhaps that young Master Wang is also the ideal man in many girls' hearts. Perhaps many girls are envious of second older sister's luck. Take me for example, if I could marry into the Wang family, my aunt would probably go to the temple every day to thank Bodhisattva for granting me such a good marriage. Shen Yu shook her head and smiled as she felt that Shen Dongling was somewhat stupid. She and Shen Dongling could not be reasoned with. Especially when he saw Shen Dongling's envious expression, he felt that Shen Dongling was even more inferior. Thinking about it, as a concubine's daughter, it was already good enough to be the legal wife, not to mention the legal wife of the minister-counselor. Shen Dongling saw that Shen Yu was still depressed and her brows turned. When the car arrives at the mountain, there will always be a way. Second older sister need not be sad and troubled over this matter. It is not worth it to tire out one's body. Just like fifth younger sister at that time. At that time when fifth younger sister was engaged, one heard that fifth younger sister also made a fuss, and seeing that there was no room to turn things around, who knew that eldest Bo and eldest Shin would return and fifth younger sister would naturally be fine. Shen Dongling's words were somewhat muddled, but Shen Yu's heart moved when she heard it. At that time Shen Miao was about to be married, but because Shen Xayan and wife returned to the capital, she escaped a calamity. At that time Shen Yu was also eavesdropping on Chen Roqiu's conversation with the servants and knew that Ren Wanyun had the idea of exchanging marriage for Shen Qing and Shen Miao. Chapter 610. Since Shen Qing and Shen Miao could exchange marriage, then why could she not? Shen Yu's heart became excited and a thought from a long time ago gradually surfaced in her mind. Her gaze turned to Shen Dongling, who was beside her. As for the candidate, wasn't there a ready-made one in front of her? Shen Dongling was a Shu daughter, and Shen Dongling felt that the gentleman of the Wang family was very good. Shen Dongling's character was weak and easily deceived. There was no one more suitable than Shen Dongling in front of her. Shen Yu looked at Shen Dongling and suddenly grabbed Shen Dongling's hand and said softly, "Third younger sister, how do you think I treat you?" Shen Dongling was surprised for a moment before lowering her head and said with some shame, "Second older sister did not despise my birth and treated me very well. In the entire Shen residence, only second older sister was willing to talk to me." Shen Yu had always put on a noble and generous appearance, and even if she looked down on Shen Dongling in her heart, she would not show it at all on her face. Instead, she looked like she treated Shen Dongling well. Especially after the last time, Shen Yu would look for Shen Dongling every 3 to 5 days to talk. From an outsider's point of view, the relationship between these two was not bad. Hearing that, Shen Yu smiled and said, "Then third younger sister, now that I am in trouble, are you willing to help me with something?" Shen Dongling smiled without any scheming, "No problem. As long as I can do it, I will definitely do my best for second older sister." Shen Yu smiled, "Hearing your words, I am relieved." She held Shen Dongling's hand tighter. Can you help me marry to Wang Bai?" Upon hearing these words, Shen Dongling was stunned. After being stunned for a moment, she wanted to pull her hand back from Shen Yu's and said in a panic, "This cannot be done. Second older sister, I can help you with other matters. I am also unable to help with this matter." "You can." Shen Yu did not let go and said anxiously, "Don't you also feel that gentleman Wang is very good? Didn't you say that if you were to get this marriage, your yin yang would also be happy for it?" "Third younger sister, I beg you. Be that as it may." Shen Dongling kept retreating, "But this is too risky. If it is discovered, I will be beaten to death, and second older sister, you will also be punished. This is too risky. Second sister, you don't have to take such a big risk. Why can't you marry young Master Wang?" Shen Yu looked at Shen Dongling and 2 lines of tears immediately flowed down. She was born to be gentle and delicate, so her tears actually made people feel a little sad. And Shen Yu's voice was filled with despair as she said, "Third younger sister, A is honey and B is arsenic. To you it is a good marriage, but to me it is not. I already have someone I like, and I've decided that I won't marry anyone else but him. If I can't marry him and have to marry someone else, it will be a dead end for me. I will definitely end my own life on that day. Shen Yu looked at Shen Dongling for a while and suddenly stood up and knelt down towards Shen Dongling with a plopped sound. She said, "If you do not agree, then it means to end my life. Third younger sister, on the account that we are sisters and on the account that only I treat you well in the entire Shen residence, I beg you to save my life." The moment Shen Dongling saw Shen Yu kneeling down, she was stunned, and upon hearing Shen Yu's words, she was so flustered that she did not know what to do. She pulled Shen Yu up and said, "Second older sister, don't be like this. Don't scare me." Shen Yu pulled Shen Dongling's hands. "Third younger sister, second older sister will beg you this time. Could it be that you want to see me become a skeleton this time?" Shen Dongling bit her lips as she looked at her. Shen Yu's hair was disheveled and her eyes were hazy with tears. She was really forced to a desperate situation, and under her helplessness, she could only reluctantly nod her head and said, "I promise you." "Second older sister, get up first." Chapter 611. Shen Yu's eyes brightened as she rushed up to hug Shen Dongling and hurriedly thanked her, as if she was really grateful to the bones. However, with her back facing Shen Dongling, there was a somewhat proud smile on her face. "It is just that, second older sister, it is better to discuss this matter at length." Shen Dongling said, "After all, the matter of exchanging the marriage is not a small matter, and once the matter is exposed, we will not be able to gain any benefits. Moreover, third Shu and third Shen will definitely see it, thus it is better to discuss it in detail." Shen Yu let go of Shen Dongling and said excitedly, "That is natural." She looked at Shen Dongling, held Shen Dongling's hand and said, "Don't worry, third sister. Since you did this for me, I will definitely explain it clearly. I forced you to do this. I won't let father and mother blame you. I won't let you be implicated in the slightest." Shen Dongling smiled, and "I believe in second older sister." The night was as dark as ink, and when Shen Dongling returned to her own bedroom in Kai Yun Yuan, Wan Yinyang was already asleep. Shen Dongling sneaked out behind Wan Yinyang's back, and Wan Yinyang thought that Shen Dongling had already rested. Shen Dongling's maid, Xinghua, asked, "Young lady really want to help second young lady marry?" "Marry? Why not marry?" Shen Dongling looked at Xinghua as she closed the door and sat on the couch. She picked up the teacup in front of her and leisurely took a sip before revealing a completely different smile. She said, "The Wang family is an official family, and Wang Bai's future official career is boundless, and the inner courtyard is peaceful. Based on my background, it is impossible for me to marry into the Wang family in this lifetime. Since there is such an opportunity, one would be a fool not to grasp it firmly." In that case, Xinghua smiled, "Second young lady can be considered to have done a good deed." "Good deed?" Shen Dongling's smile was somewhat sarcastic. "Could it be that you think that in this Shen residence, there is really someone who is as kind as a fairy?" The maid was surprised for a moment and was somewhat puzzled. "Young lady's meaning is, I will spare no effort to help her, but you need to know that once the exchange of marriage is exposed, the first thing that Shen Yu would do is to splash the dirty water onto me. It must be me who thought of ways to snatch her marriage, and she, Shen Yu, would feel wronged. Even if the second branch knew the reason, in order to prevent the Wang clan from becoming enemies with them, they would still blame me." As for old Furen, Shen Dongling sneered, "A Shu daughter is naturally not as important as a D daughter in her eyes. No matter what, I'm the one to be sacrificed." A look of disbelief rose on Xinghua's face as she said, "But previously second young lady said that she will clarify for young lady and will not let young lady bear the blame for nothing. Is Shen Yu such a kind-hearted person?" Shen Dongling shook her head and smiled, "Everyone in this residence is selfish." "What makes you think that Shen Yu is such a selfless person?" If she was really so selfless, she wouldn't have asked me to marry someone for her. Since that is the case, Xinghua asked, does young lady still want a substitute in marriage? What should we do if all the dirty water is poured onto Miss? Shen Dongling smiled indifferently. Don't worry, since I can marry her, I must have made full preparations. Xinghua, you must remember that everyone in this Shen residence are all jackals, wolves, tigers and leopards. If one wants to do something, it is better to do it yourself than to beg others. Just like fifth younger sister, she has done very well. So once there is a chance to leave the Shen residence, I will not be reluctant. Xinghua nodded her head as if she understood something and suddenly thought of something before asking, do you want to tell Yinyang about this matter? No need. Shen Dongling flatly refused. Yinyang is timid and will definitely not agree to me marrying Shen Yu. After the matter is done, then explain it to her. Chapter 612. Only then did Xinghua withdraw. Coincidentally, in the Shen residence's Qiu Shui Yuan, there were also people talking about Shen Yu's marriage. Yue had not eaten for the entire day and her body cannot take it. The one who spoke was Shen Wan. He also doted on Shen Yu for so many years, and if it was not for Shen Yu always thinking about people that she should not think about, Shen Wan would not have punished her like this. She would not eat the things that I sent people to send over. Chen Roqiu sighed, thus let third older sister send it over to her. Most likely she has eaten it now. Third older sister. Shen Wan frowned, when did Yue get so close with her? In Shen Wan's eyes, Shen Dongling was after all a Shu daughter and it was a loss of status for Shen Yu to be on good terms with Shen Dongling, thus he was not very happy when he heard it. Chen Roqiu smiled, it got better a few days ago. Originally there was eldest sister who talked to Yue in the residence, but after that eldest sister passed away, there are no other sisters in the residence. Yue is rather lonely on normal days and I see that third older sister is an honest one. Yue like her, then let them play together. It is not worth anything. Shen Wan did not speak anymore and only heard Chen Roqiu speaking again. It is just that I am worried that if Yue continues to make a fuss like this, what if she still makes a fuss on the day of marriage? Just lock her up for a few days. You are her mother and at that time speak some soft words to Yue. Shen Wan said, if it really cannot be done and if she still makes a fuss on the day of marriage, then think of something. Chen Roqiu's heart jumped when she heard it. Shen Wan had always been gentle in front of her and there was rarely a time when he was this tough. Chen Roqiu was after all a female and could hear a trace of impatience in Shen Wan's words. She thought of the matter of old Shen Furen frequently bringing in concubines for Shen Wan and felt somewhat uneasy. She then hugged Shen Wan's waist from behind and said, after Yue gets married, master and this concubine can relax for a few days. These days it seems that master is not happy with the official matters and did not speak to this concubine at all, making this concubine feel uneasy. Even though Chen Roqiu was not young, but because she had taken good care of herself and understood what a man was thinking in his heart, Shen Wan usually fell for it when she acted coquettishly. Who knew that today, Shen Wan only patted her hand and said with a smile, let's wait until Yu's marriage is over. In the end, his tone was a little perfunctory. Chen Roqiu's heart gradually sank and the hand that was hugging Shen Wan's waist also slowly tightened. Shen Miao received Pei Lang's letter. Under the light of the lamp, Shen Miao finished reading the letter. In the letter, it said that Fu Xiu seemed to have discovered that there were some clues between Shen Miao and Prince Rui, and in order to probe, he deliberately brought up Princess Ming En's matter to Shen Miao in front of the Crown Prince of Qin, in order to probe the relationship between Shen Miao and Prince Rui. In the future, if Huang Fu Hao were to take action against Shen Miao, one would be able to see the clues from Prince Rui's actions. Shen Miao did not expect that Fu Xiu would think of this so quickly. After thinking about it, she felt relieved. After being husband and wife with Fu Xiaoyi for so many years, it was not the first time that Fu Xiaoyi was good at finding evidence from the clues. Moreover, if Fu Xiaoyi was really unable to find anything and was so incompetent, he would not have stood at the end in the fight for the heir apparent. But Shen Miao herself was not that worried, because Huang Fu Hao's character was not impulsive and moreover it involved the Shen family, so Huang Fu Hao would not easily make a move. At least he would have to investigate it properly. At the end of the letter, it said that if Shen Miao really had a friendship with Prince Roy of the Great Liang, and if she encountered any trouble, she could seek help from Prince Roy of the Great Liang. There were many capable people under Prince Roy of the Great Liang, and there would be less trouble when doing things. Shen Miao felt that the last paragraph was somewhat inexplicable. There was no connection between Pei Lang and Xie Jingxing, and the most important thing was that with Pei Lang's cautious character, it was somewhat strange for him to say that he would seek help from others. But this was indeed Pei Lang's letter without a doubt. Shen Miao thought about it and could not think of anything else, so she did not take these words seriously. She threw the letter into the fire of the stove and when the fire licked the letter, it instantly turned into ashes. Chapter 613. There was a large red wooden scroll on the table. That was an invitation sent from the Shen residence. Shen Yu was going to marry the young master of the Minister of Land, Wang Bai. One did not know what the people of the Shen residence were thinking that they would send this invitation to the Shen mansion. Shen Xian and Luo Shuayan only took a look and did not bother about it, so naturally Shen Miao would not take the initiative to go over. But Shen Miao did not think that Shen Yu would eventually marry Wang Bai. In the previous lifetime, Shen Yu's obsession with Fu Xiaoyi was so deep that she did not hesitate to endure for so many years. In this lifetime, for Shen Yu to marry, how could Shen Yu be willing? As she was thinking, she heard someone knocking on the window. When she looked back, Xie Jingxing had already arrived uninvited. He lazily looked at the red scroll in Shen Miao's hands and raised his eyebrows. "You want to go?" It seemed that Xie Jingxing also knew about the marriage between Shen Yu and Wang Bai. It should not be fake. When Chen Roqiu and Shen Wan do things, they would definitely do a full set. In order to prove that their daughter was also very precious, there would definitely be a big banquet with Ming Qi's guests. In addition, the Minister of Land was acquainted with many officials and many officials were on good terms with him, thus it was appropriate to send more red scrolls. Perhaps the entire Ding capital knew about it now. Not going. Shen Miao casually threw the red scroll on the table. Xie Jingxing seemed to have expected that she would say that and his figure flashed and entered the room. Shen Miao sat down in front of the table and Xie Jingxing stood at the side with his arms crossed. Shen Yu is locked up in the ancestral hall and Shen Dongling just went over to take a look. Shen Miao looked at Xie Jingxing with some surprise and hesitated for a moment before asking, "You even went to the Shen residence?" Xie Jingxing was a dignified Prince Roy of the Great Liang. How could he do all these uninvited thief things? It was fine to frequently stroll around the Shen mansion, but to actually secretly peep at the movements of the people in the Shen residence. Xie Jingxing choked on Shen Miao's words, "Of course it was not me who went." Shen Miao understood that most likely it was Xie Jingxing who sent his subordinates, but she felt that it was somewhat strange in her heart. The people in the Shen residence did not have the slightest bit of relationship with Xie Jingxing, so why did Xie Jingxing let people monitor the movements in the Shen residence? Could it be for her? Shen Yu's marriage, you are not happy? Xie Jingxing asked. The people in the Shen residence have nothing to do with me. Could it be that I should be happy for her? Shen Miao said, moreover, whether the marriage is successful or not is another matter. What is there to be happy about? Xie Jingxing's lips hooked up and sat opposite Shen Miao before looking at her. You seem to understand it very well. You specially came over to tell me that Shen Dongling and Shen Yu are together. is it not to tell me about this matter? Shen Miao smiled without a care. Shen Dongling and Shen Yu will eventually exchange marriage. Fortunately Shen Yu found Shen Dongling. One think that with Shen Dongling around, there would not be any mistakes in this marriage exchange. In the Shen residence, Shen Miao did not know what role Shen Dongling played, and in the last lifetime, Shen Miao did not pay much attention to this Shu younger sister. Ever since his rebirth, he had seen many things clearly. Shen Dongling was actually very similar to a person. Shen Dongling was very similar to Fu Xiu-yi. They both had a kind of endurance skill. Chapter 6:14. If there is a day when you are also forced to marry, what would you do? Shen Miao was slightly startled. She was forced to marry. In the previous lifetime, she was forced to marry, but it was she who took the initiative to marry Fu Xiu-yi. She was the one who was forced to marry. She had never thought of being forced to marry. At this moment when Xie Jingxing asked, Shen Miao thought of something. Following the Shen family's return to the Ding capital, not to mention that Emperor Wen Hui had returned the military power of the Shen family's army to Shen Exayan, even the Luo family's army in the faraway Shaochun city was not the same army that was in dire straits. Not only did the first household of the Shen family not decline as everyone had expected because they were far away from the Ding capital, but their strength became even stronger. The Shen family was like a big piece of fat meat. In the fight for the heir apparent, whoever was tied to the Shen family would have the winning chip. How to tie them together? In a large aristocratic family, marriage was the right way. Shen Qiu's and Shen Miao's marriage had become a channel for everyone to climb up to the Shen family. The only difference was that Shen Qiu was a male and could wait for some time, but Shen Miao was a female, and if it was delayed for a long time, a female's youth would fade like a flower and it would be inevitable to be pointed out by others. If there was a day when she also became a chip in the fight for the heir apparent and was fought over and forced to marry, what would happen? Xie Jingxing stared at her and his eyes were as sharp as a blade. There will not be such a day. Shen Miao said. If there is, what will you do? Xie Jingxing did not let her go and persistently asked Shen Miao this question. Shen Miao carefully thought about it and said, then fight. If one is able to fight, one would naturally think of ways to let him know the difficulties and retreat. If one is unable to fight, then there is no harm in marrying over. Xie Jingxing raised his eyebrows, no harm. One must at least live. Shen Miao lightly said, after marrying over, then think of ways to retaliate. There are many helpless things in the world and I cannot be like a strong female and die with a piece of white silk. It is better to keep one's life and there would be a chance to turn things around. The previous life's experience in the palace made Shen Miao understand that death was the most hopeless thing. Once he died, it would mean that everything had been settled, and there would be no more room for change. She often thought that if she did not die like that in the previous life, she would have fought with Mei Furen in the palace for another few decades and it would be unknown who would be the winner. Perhaps she would still lose, but perhaps she would also win. She would help the entire first household of the Shen family, and help Wan Yu and Fu Ming to get back this debt of life. In any case, life would not pass in vain. Xie Jingxing stared at Shen Miao. She was like a plant full of vitality, a weed that grew in the cold winter. Even in the harshest environment, she would never lose hope. Even if he was in the most disadvantageous position, he could still climb to the position he wanted little by little. Her purpose was clear, but it was also mysterious. She did not look like a 16-year-old girl. Xie Jingxing smiled faintly, you are like the Shen family. Shen Miao did not speak and only heard Xie Jingxing speaking again, I will make a trip out of the city these few days. Be careful yourself. If there are any problems, go to Feng Xian pawn shop to look for Ji Yushu. Gao Yang is my people, so you can trust him. Shen Miao was stunned for a moment. Because of the previous lifetime's experience, Shen Miao naturally knew that Gao Yang was Xie Jingxing's people, and could even be said to be Xie Jingxing's confidant. But even though she knew, Shen Miao had never revealed it. Even when Luo Tan was saved by Gao Yang that day, it was under Xie Jingxing's orders and Shen Miao only pretended not to know. She knew that some things had a bottom line. Even if Xie Jingxing did not have any enmity towards her, it did not mean that a person was willing to let another person know all the ins and outs. But now Xie Jingxing took the initiative to tell her that Gao Yang was his people. This was really treating Shen Miao as his own people. Chapter 6:15. Just because they were allies on the surface, they could treat each other with sincerity. What made Xie Jingxing think that she would not betray him? Shen Miao was thinking like this, but it was not noticed by Xie Jingxing as he said, Huang Fu Hao might find trouble with you. Things that you cannot solve yourself, just hand it over to Gao Yang. Shen Miao inexplicably had a strange feeling. This appearance. It was like a husband telling his wife to pay attention to something before leaving. Shen Miao jumped in shock at her own thoughts and said in a somewhat flustered manner, understood. Xie Jingxing was somewhat baffled by Shen Miao's sudden fluster but did not say anything more and mentioned a few more things to pay attention to before leaving. After Xie Jingxing left, Shen Miao sat under the lamp and inexplicably felt that her cheeks were somewhat hot. Every time she spoke to Xie Jingxing these few days, she always felt that something was not right. Shen Miao thought that she must let Guyu drink some refreshing heart tea tomorrow, so that her imagination would not run wild all day. When Xie Jingxing left the Shen mansion and returned to the residence of Prince Rui, he coincidentally saw that Gao Yang and Ji Yushu were also there. Ji Yushu was feeding the white tiger. Xie Jingxing glanced at him and said unhappily, do not feed anymore. Jiao Jiao likes to eat. Ji Yushu said. The veins on Xie Jingxing's forehead throbbed, do not call its name. Ji Yushu immediately felt wronged as he stood up and silently retreated to the side. Gao Yang was however used to it and Xie Jingxing pampered this white tiger very much, but only Ji Yushu dared to tease the tiger all day long. A beautiful and majestic white tiger was now fed into a meatball. Anyone would feel heartache when they saw it. He walked over to Xie Jingxing's side and asked, everything is prepared. Depart tomorrow. Xie Jingxing looked at him, during this period of time, pay more attention in the Ding capital. Gao Yang looked at him, do not worry. I will definitely help you to pay attention to 5th Shen young lady. Do not pay too much attention. Xie Jingxing said lightly. Gao Yang wanted to vomit blood. Xie Jingxing was just too temperamental. Just take yesterday as an example. Pei Lang wrote a letter to Shen Miao and the main idea was to warn Shen Miao to be wary of Huang Fu Hao and Fu Xiuyi and finally to remind Shen Miao to stay away from Xie Jingxing. Xie Jingxing let Gao Yang copy a letter. Gao Yang was a disciple of a master of calligraphy and painting and it was the first time he did this kind of copying business and made a counterfeit letter. What was even more amazing was that Xie Jingxing erased the last sentence of the reminder and made Gao Yang add some groundless words, and only said that if there was any trouble, he could look for Prince Rui for help. Although he already knew that the person he was assisting was a black-hearted master, this time, Gao Yang clearly had a new understanding of Xie Jingxing's shamelessness. I got it. Gao Yang waved his fan and said, in other words, if she causes trouble, I'll bring up the rear, and if she kills, I'll hand over the knife, right? It is not that troublesome. Xie Jingxing's lips hooked up, she is currently very busy with the Shen family's marriage and could not care about killing. Ever since that night, Xie Jingxing did not appear again. Shen Miao knew that it was impossible for Prince Rui of the Great Liang to stay in the Ding capital and do nothing. If one were to say that Huang Fu Hao stayed till now, one was to investigate the cause of Princess Ming En's death, and the other was to form an alliance with Ming Qi. Then Xie Jingxing's stay was meaningless. He must have other plans and schemes. Time passed by very quickly, and very soon it was the day of Shen Yu's marriage. The 8th of the 12th lunar month was an auspicious day, with favorable timing, geographical and social conditions. The eldest gentleman of the Minister of Land was going to marry, and he was marrying the second young lady of the Shen residence, Shen Yu. Even though it was because of the separation of the first household of the Shen family 2 years ago, and the matter of Shen Yuan and Shen Gui, the Shen family was not as good as before. But the Minister of Land had a wide range of friends in the court, and in addition Shen Yu's reputation as a talented female had spread throughout the Ding capital, so this marriage was considered lively. Shen Yu was after all a proper daughter, Shen Wan rather cherished his reputation, and Wang Bai was knowledgeable, so outsiders would say that they were a perfect match. Chapter 6:16. And in the Shen residence, Shen Yu had already dressed up but had chased everyone out, leaving only Shen Dongling alone. If one were to look carefully, one would see that Shen Dongling had also dressed up meticulously. Shen Dongling was originally a beauty, but it was covered up because she did not go out often. Today she was dressed up as a newly married bride and looked even more beautiful. It was just that Shen Yu did not have the mood to appreciate or be jealous. When she saw Shen Dongling coming over, she said, "Quickly. Quickly change clothes with me." The previous matron of honor and Chen Roqiu had already left. These days, on the surface Shen Yu seemed to have gradually accepted this marriage under Chen Roqiu's suppression and did not reject it. But in fact she was secretly plotting with Shen Dongling on how to exchange the marriage. The more she interacted with Shen Dongling, the more Shen Yu felt that Shen Dongling was easy to deceive and was even more stupid than the previous Shen Miao. Shen Dongling was flustered as she changed her clothes and said softly, "Second older sister, I am very afraid." "Do not be afraid." Shen Yu was afraid that Shen Dongling would go back on her words at this critical juncture and comforted her, "Do not worry. Tomorrow I will explain to father and mother that this matter was started by me alone and you will not be implicated. After today, you will be the rightful young foreign of the Minister of Land's family and no one would dare to look down on you." Shen Yu used the matter of identity to tempt Shen Dongling, and as expected Shen Dongling's fear faded a little and her face blushed. She could not help but secretly despise her in her heart. If it was not as a last resort, she would not be willing to let Shen Dongling live so well for no reason. It was just that now as a last resort, she treated it as giving Shen Dongling the title of a foreign out of charity. Just as she finished dressing, she heard the sound of people walking outside. Shen Yu quickly hid behind the screen in the room and Shen Dongling also quickly covered her head with the veil. Shen Yu's maid walked in from outside and because there were no other sisters in the Shen family, the maid helped her out. Shen Dongling used the excuse of helping in the kitchen and had long disappeared and everyone did not take it to heart. Chen Roqiu originally wanted to speak a few words with Shen Yu before boarding the sedan but saw that Shen Yu was being supported by the maid and walked towards the sedan without even turning her head towards Chen Roqiu. When Chen Roqiu saw it, her heart was somewhat sad as she thought that Shen Yu was still blaming her because of the marriage but there was nothing she could do. Under the watchful eyes of the crowd, she was afraid that there would be more twists and turns, so she followed the instructions of the matron of honor. The palanquin rattled as it walked further away, about to be carried to the minister-councillor's residence. Chen Roqiu also needed to pack up and follow to the residence of the Minister of Land when coincidentally Chang Ziqing walked over. Perhaps it was because of the wedding atmosphere today, Chang Ziqing was also wearing a light peach-colored cotton embroidered dress. Because she always wore refreshing colors such as cyan and black, it was rare for her to wear such a gorgeous outfit, which made her look quite charming. Chang Ziqing smiled, "If second young lady marries out, there will be a good future." When Chen Roqiu saw Chang Ziqing, she then remembered that she had not seen Zhang Ziqing for a long time. Ever since the last time she spoke to Zhang Ziqing, one did not know what Zhang Ziqing was busy with, and she was also concerned about Shen Yu's marriage, thus she did not go over to speak to Zhang Ziqing. At this moment, seeing Zhang Ziqing's flowing brows, it was much more colorful than before. Her heart moved and she smiled. Does younger sister Qing still go to eldest Sa's residence these days? Zhang Ziqing smiled and shook her head. Not often. Eldest Furen and the general are very busy and do not have much time to chat. Chen Roqiu was certain that Zhang Ziqing was lying and thought that she was shy, so she patted her hands. Younger sister Qing is so likable, one would definitely find time to talk to you. Chen Roqiu thought that after Shen Yu's matter was over, she would ask Zhang Ziqing about the progress at this end. Shen Yu had no choice but to marry into the Wang family. Even though the Wang family was not bad, but thinking that her daughter could not marry her sweetheart and even had a rift with herself, Chen Roqiu's heart was blocked. On the contrary, Shen Miao was now the most popular person in the Ding capital. Initially, a few days ago, one thought that Shen Miao would have a miserable ending after being kidnapped, but one did not think that Shen Miao would come back in one piece, and because of Princess Rong Xian's intervention, even the rumors were destroyed. Looking at the entire Ding capital, if Shen Miao wanted to marry a prince, it was possible. Once she thought that the thing that her daughter yearned for was easily obtained by Shen Miao, Chen Roqiu was very unreconciled. Thinking that Luo Shuiyan, that kind of vulgar female, could actually have a child, Chen Roqiu could not wait to destroy her. Chapter 617. She took a look at Zhang Ziqing in front of her. Zhang Ziqing had already gained Luo Shuiyan's favor, and now it seemed that she was getting along well with Shen Xian. As long as after a few days, Zhang Ziqing would think of a way to enter the Shen mansion. Then Luo Shuiyan's and Shen Miao's days in the future would not be easy. Most likely one would not be able to see others doing well, especially when one was not doing well. This was what Chen Roqiu was thinking now. She could not wait to see Luo Shuiyan crying bitterly, and in a moment she looked at Zhang Ziqing more cordially. She pulled Zhang Ziqing's hands and smiled. Let's go. Younger sister will also follow me to the residence of the Minister of Land. I often told you to learn from your bearing, but one did not think that she would marry before she even started learning. It is a pity. Zhang Ziqing followed up with a smile. It is second young lady's good luck to have a husband to dote on after marriage. You really know how to speak. Chen Roqiu smiled. One's heart is already warmed up. She looked at the 5-colored sachet at Zhang Ziqing's waist and said, "This sachet is very unique." Zhang Ziqing took down the sachet and handed it to Chen Roqiu. If Furen likes it, then gift it to Furen. Chen Roqiu had always liked some exquisite things, and seeing that the embroidery of the sachet was indeed exquisite, she could not bear to part with it and did not decline. She placed it under her nose and sniffed it gently before saying in surprise, "This smell is very good. One do not know what fragrance is it." Zhang Ziqing smiled gently. I do not know about fragrance but do know about tea. Thus one casually mixed some tea leaves and placed it inside, thinking that it can lift one's spirit when one is tired. One have let Furen laugh at it. Younger sister is clever and dexterous, how would I dare to laugh at it? Chen Roqiu accepted the sachet and smiled, like it very much. Both of them chatted and laughed as they walked out. Shen Yu's and Wang Bai's marriage was undoubtedly a pleasant surprise in the previously quiet Ding capital. One did not know what the Wang family was thinking, but in order to highlight the importance of this marriage, they actually carried the bridal sedan and strolled around the entire Ding capital. Coincidentally, they strolled to the bottom of the Feng Xian pawn shop. Upstairs, Ji Yushu was eating pastries and said as he ate, "The Wang family's marriage is quite lively." Opposite him, Gao Yang gently waved his fan and glanced downstairs. The sounds of gongs and drums shook the sky. He closed the window in disdain and said, "The bride has already been changed. What's the point of being so lively? It's just a farce. I'm quite interested in this play. It is best to cause trouble for 3 days and 3 nights." Ji Yushu had the temperament of wishing for the world to be in chaos and did not mind the matter getting bigger and bigger. He said, "Speaking of which, is there no movement from young Lady Shin?" Before Xie Jingxing left, he wanted Gao Yang to look after Shin Miao, and if Shin Miao wanted to do anything, he must think of ways to help. After knowing Shin Miao for 2 years, Ji Yushu could be considered to have more or less grasped Shin Miao's temper. She looked gentle and amiable, but in fact it was not to be trifled with. The Shin family was originally heartless towards the first household, and seeing such a farce, if Shin Miao did not throw stones at them when they were down, it would not be justifiable. Gao Yang sneered, "Not now, but there will definitely be in the future." Ji Yushu wiped his mouth. "Actually, you do not need to have such a big prejudice against young Lady Shin. Young Lady Shin's character is still very good and is very generous. She also looks very good, so why do you always be so calculative with her? Moreover, the Shin family did not give you any trouble." "No trouble." Upon mentioning this, Gao Yang felt his chest was stuffy. Shin Miao was unworthy to say that Xie Jingxing's temperamental appearance made the people around him to be unlucky. Even Shin Miao's Biao older sister was not easy to deal with. Gao Yang had never seen such a patient who could toss and turn. She was unmoved by force or persuasion and always felt that he was on the same level as the physician in the medical hall. Gao Yang was a young and promising official in the Great Liang and was an imperial physician in Mingqi. But when he came to Luotan, he became a barefooted physician, thus Gao Yang was not very happy. Chapter 618. Ji Yushu did not notice Gao Yang's expression and tidied up his clothes before saying leisurely, "No matter what, just wait for a good show tomorrow. The bigger the commotion the better, so that when third older brother returns, he would not feel bored." For the Wang family's marriage, no one from the first household of the Shin family was present. Actually, Shin Wan had sent an invitation to the Shin mansion, so no matter what, one had to take into account their face. But Shin Axeyan was not a hypocritical person, and the things that the Shin family did made Luo Shuaiyan extremely disgusted, thus she did not receive the invitation, much less send a gift. Some of the people who were watching the development of the situation clearly understood the attitude of the first household of the Shin family. It seemed that they had really decided to cut off all relations with the Shin family, and there would not be any leeway. No matter what, the marriage was done. Early in the morning the next day, Wan Yinyang woke up. Yesterday when Shin Yu got married, Shin Dongling helped out and one did not see her figure for the entire day. Afterwards, when they returned to the residence, the maid said that Shin Dongling was too tired and fell asleep, thus Wan Yinyang did not disturb her. Today she specially made a sweet jadeite soup so that Shin Dongling could nourish her body. Thus she stood outside Shin Dongling's boudoir and knocked on the door. No one answered in the room, so Wan Yinyang said, "Dongling, Yinyang has entered." Finishing speaking, she pushed the door open. One saw a person lying on Shin Dongling's bed and covered with a quilt. When she heard the commotion, she suddenly sat up. Wan Yinyang was first startled before a look of disbelief appeared on her face. She cried out involuntarily, "Second young lady, why are you here?" The person lying on Shin Dongling's bed was not someone else but Shin Yu. And Shin Yu had obviously married into the residence of the Minister of Land yesterday, which meant that Shin Yu should not be in the Shin residence but in the residence of the Minister of Land. Why would she appear on Shin Dongling's bed without rhyme or reason? Wan Yinyang looked around again and did not see Shin Dongling's figure. Even though she was not considered smart normally, at this moment she also vaguely understood something. She asked in a trembling voice, "Second young lady, Dongling. Dongling. Where did Dongling go? Shin Yu quickly lowered her head and rolled her eyes. When she raised her head again, her face was already filled with tears. The moment Wan Yinyang saw Shin Yu's tears, she felt her vision turning black and only heard Shin Yu sobbing, "Do not know. I also do not know. Third younger sister came over to toast with me and then. I don't know anything else." The Shin residence exploded into an uproar. In Rongjing Tang, everyone stood together. Old Shin Furen was so angry that her mouth was crooked as she looked at Wan Yinyang and said angrily, "A good daughter that you have taught." Shin Gui stood at one side and originally wanted to say something. Now Wan Yinyang was the only woman that gave birth to a child for him, and Wan Yinyang was usually considered gentle and well-behaved, so even though Shin Gui was a playboy, he still had some affection for Wan Yinyang. But when he saw the angry expressions of his third brother and third sister-in-law, he swallowed his request. Shin Dongling actually schemed against Shin Yu and helped Shin Yu to marry. Now Shin Yu was left in the Shin residence and Shin Dongling was married to the Minister of Land's family. If it was anyone else, they would not be happy. Shin Gui himself also did not think that the usually well-behaved and timid Shin Dongling would have such big guts to exchange the marriage. Shin Gui would never offend his third brother for a daughter, even if that was his only bloodline. Wan Yinyang cried as she kowtowed to old Shin Furen and said as she kowtowed, "Old Furen is wise. Third young lady is usually timid, so how would she have such big guts to exchange the marriage? Old Furen, could it be that there is some misunderstanding? Even if third young lady had 10,000 guts, third young lady would definitely not dare to do such a treacherous thing. Do your words mean that you are slandered third lady?" Chen Rochio's face was livid. These words can really hit the heart. Wan Yinyang. Chapter 619. No matter how old Shin Furen usually did not like Chen Rochio, she did not even have much feelings for Shin Yu, but Shin Yu was after all the granddaughter of the Shin family, and for a Shu granddaughter to snatch her marriage, it would not be good to hear. She immediately followed Chen Rochio's words, "What kind of mother will have what kind of daughter? What a shameful thing." Wan Yinyang cried as she looked at Shin Yu, "Second young lady. Wasn't your relationship with third young lady very good previously? You also speak up for third young lady. Third young lady is not that kind of person, right?" Wan Yinyang did not believe that Shin Dongling would do such a thing. Since young, Shin Dongling had her own ideas, and many times when Wan Yinyang did not understand, Shin Dongling would even point it out to Wan Yinyang. Wan Yinyang had always thought that the daughter that crawled out of her womb would not be worse than any of the daughters in the Shin residence unless there was a problem with her identity. Shin Dongling looked timid on the outside, but she always did things with great planning. Even though she previously heard from Shin Dongling that Shin Yu's marriage was an opportunity, but Wan Yinyang had never thought that it would be such a situation. Wan Yinyang believed that as long as Shin Dongling was not stupid, she would not use such a crude method to exchange marriage. After all, in this way, Shin Dongling would not have a foothold in the Wang family or the Shin family. Originally she was hoping that the cultured Shin Yu would say one or two words for Shin Dongling, but she did not expect that Shin Yu's face would change faster than flipping a book. Upon hearing Wan Yinyang speak, Shin Yu cried, "Wan Yinyang, I really do not know what is going on. Third Mimi said I was leaving the mansion. Since we are sisters, she toasted me a cup of wine before leaving, and I drank it. When I woke up, it was already the next morning. I also believe that third younger sister didn't do it on purpose. But I really don't know how she became like this." On the surface, Shin Yu's words were saying that she believed Shin Dongling, but her words were saying that she was schemed by Shin Dongling, which was undoubtedly adding fuel to the fire. As expected, when Chen Rochio and Shin Wan heard this, their expressions became even more gloomy. Shen Gui also frowned, and when Wan Yinyang saw everyone standing on Shen Yu's side, a trace of despair flashed in her heart. The urgent matter is to first think of how to solve it. Chang Zai-Ching said softly. She was not a person of the Shen Fu, and it was not good to comment on the previous words. At this moment, it reminded everyone that the bride had changed, so how could they explain to the Wang family? Send Shen Dongling back. Or should he simply send Shen Dongling to live on the farm for the rest of her life? In any case, Shen Dongling was just a concubine's daughter, so it would be easy to get rid of her. The most important thing was to not make the Wang clan unhappy. Old Shen Furen made a prompt decision: first go and discuss this matter with the Wang family and let people send third girl back. Needless to say, lock Wan Yinyang in the woodshed. The things that she gave birth to do wrong, as the mother, she deserves to be taught a lesson. When Shen Yu heard it, she became anxious instead. She did not expect that Shen Dongling would be sent back. If Shen Dongling was sent back, then wouldn't she be sent to the Wang family? So all these methods were all for naught. How could he do that? Chen Roqiu and Shen Wan were rather satisfied with old Shen Furen's words. Chen Roqiu glanced at Wan Yinyang and her heart was filled with resentment. She only thought that in the future, she would definitely torture Wan Yinyang. Whether it was to be sold or to be a slave, it was after all a troublesome thing. When Wan Yinyang heard it, her eyes turned black. One had to know that if Shen Dongling was sent back. She was already married once and Shen Dongling was a Shu daughter. The Shen family would definitely choose to protect Shen Yu and sacrifice Shen Dongling. In this way, the rest of Shen Dongling's life would be ruined. Just as she was thinking, a servant came in to report that the Minister of Land, Wang's family, had arrived. Chapter 620. Upon hearing that people from the Minister of Land, Wan Yinyang trembled as she looked outside. Although she believed that Shen Dongling wasn't the culprit, all the dirty water was splashed on Shen Dongling. If the Wang family wanted to pursue this matter, they would definitely target Shen Dongling. Wan Yinyang only had Shen Dongling as her only daughter, so how could her heart not ache? Unfortunately, her words carried little weight, and even if she wanted to save Shen Dongling from the fire and water, there was nothing she could do. Everyone looked at each other before old Shen Furen said, "Invite the Wang family in." The one who came from the Wang clan was a dark-skinned and sturdy woman, as well as a few servant girls of high status. The dark-skinned woman's face was dark to begin with. As soon as she entered the room, her face was gloomy. Her shoulders and waist were round, making her look even more frightening. It was as if they were here to denounce him. Seeing Wan Yinyang crying and falling to the ground in the Shen residence without any change in expression, everyone realized something. Old Shen Furen frowned and was about to speak when she heard that black strong female said, "May one ask where is the residence's second household Wan Yinyang?" Wan Yinyang's heart jumped and the more she felt despair. Chen Roqiu on the contrary was relieved. If the other party wanted to take it out on Wan Yinyang, the Shen family would definitely not protect Wan Yinyang. Chen Roqiu even thought in her heart that it would be good to torture Wan Yinyang, this mother and daughter pair, to death. It was really unbearable for them to actually have crooked ideas about Shen Yu. Thinking of this, Chen Roqiu smiled and went forward. "It is not to Momo to say that we were also horrified by the matter in the residence yesterday." He had never expected that the third young lady would do such a disgraceful thing. "It's just that my family's heir has been wronged in vain, and the eldest young master of the residence must be very alarmed and angry. This matter is all because of our Shen residence's improper upbringing, causing such a big scandal. One hopes that after Master and Furen of the in-laws get angry, they will calmly think about it. I've already scolded you, for trusting people too easily. This is really..." The black strong female ignored Chen Roqiu's words and asked again with a black face, "May one ask where is the residence's Wan Yinyang?" Everyone was surprised for a moment as Chinrochio did not expect that this old maid would dare to give her face. But in front of everyone, she still had to maintain her usual gentle and amiable appearance. In addition, this matter was the Wang family's victim, so it was not good for her to say anything. Old Shinfuren said in a deep voice, "The one kneeling on the floor is Madame Wan." Wan Yinyang's eyes revealed a mournful expression, but that black strong female unexpectedly reached out to help Wan Yinyang up. Not only was there no scolding or rudeness, but her attitude was somewhat respectful as she said, "Eldest young mistress Mrs. Mother and eldest young master, let this servant bring Wan Yinyang to stay in the residence of the Minister of Land. This servant has specially come to make this trip, I hope old madam will allow it." Once these words came out, everyone in Rongjing Tang was stunned. What was called eldest young mistress missed her mother and eldest young master let people bring Wan Yinyang to live in the residence of the Minister of Land. Who was eldest young mistress? Who was the mother of eldest young mistress? Shin Dongling. The Wan family. When Chen Rochio saw the black strong female helping Wan Yinyang up, she already faintly felt that something was not right, and when she heard those words, she almost fainted. Shinwan's face sunk as he said, "What is the meaning of in-law?" That black strong female was someone who liked to be clever and looked at Shinwan's expression before saying with a puzzled look, "This servant does not really understand third Shin Master's words. Can it be said more clearly?" Shinwan and Chin Rochio were somewhat depressed at the same time. This old maid was obviously pretending to be confused and obviously knew something but still pretended to be stupid. Could it be that they had to say the words of exchanging the marriage? Shinwan and Chin Rochio were unable to say it out, but old Shinfuren did not have such concerns. She was originally not a daughter of a noble family, thus she did not know shame. She stiffened her neck and said, "In-law's words are not right. Yesterday during the marriage, our residence's third and second young lady exchanged the marriage and even the bride was changed. Now is the time to discuss how to solve this matter, and you, a servant, dare to act confused." Chapter 621. When Chen Rochio and Shinwan wanted to stop old Shinfuren, it was already too late. Old Shinfuren always had this kind of ability. She always felt that she was a cut above others and everyone would fawn over her. For Shin Yu's marriage, old Shinfuren actually did not look at the Minister of Land's family and wanted Shin Yu to marry higher, but in fact, the Wang family's status and connections in the court was far higher than what Shinwan had. On the surface, this black and strong woman was an old woman, but without the Wang family's permission, how would she dare to speak to the Shin family like that? Old Shinfuren scolding this old woman was clearly scolding the Wang family. The Wang family would only feel that the Shin family did not have the eyes and was bullying others. When the black and strong woman heard it, she indeed laughed, but that laughter was exceptionally ear-piercing to Chin Rochio and Shinwan's ears. The black and strong woman was puzzled. What is old Furen's meaning? Where did the matter of exchanging the marriage come from? Yesterday there was a eldest young master marrying a wife, and the new bride was sensible and considerate and was liked by the entire Wang residence. Why did old Furen say such a joke? Liked by everyone in the Wang mansion. Wan Yinyang was originally somewhat confused, but when she heard those words, her heart quivered and suddenly felt a sense of joy from being rescued from a hopeless situation. Her Dongling was extremely intelligent and had a good temperament and appearance. If she could firmly tie Wang Bai just based on yesterday night, with Wang Bai's protection, so what if Shin Yu entered the door in the future? Being a concubine was better than being an ant in the temple. Moreover, Wan Yinyang believed that Shin Dongling would one day become outstanding. When Chen Rochio heard it, she almost went crazy from anger and did not care about old Shinfuren's rude words and said to the black and strong woman, "What is the Wang family's intention? If one does not like or is angry, then just say it directly. There is no need to be so mystifying. Could it be that one really want to treat third young lady as you are to live?" Shenwan slightly frowned and looked at Chen Roqiu with some surprise. Chen Roqiu's words were no better than old Shen Furen's. Unless it was a last resort, Shenwan did not want to offend the Wang family, especially since the Shen family was at fault first. That black and strong woman turned towards Chen Roqiu and said, "Third Shen Furen's words are strange. Yesterday, eldest young master married the second young miss of the Fu. The second young miss is also very good. There has never been a third young Mississippi." Chen Roqiu was stunned on the spot. The meaning of these words was that it was true that the Wang residents recognized Shen Yu's identity, but she was Shen Dongling's person. Let Shen Dongling live with Shen Yu's identity. What kind of words were those? Chen Roqiu was going crazy. It was Shen Yu who did not dare to speak at the side, who finally heaved a sigh of relief when she heard it. All she wanted was for Shen Dongling to marry into the Wang family on her behalf, and then turn herself into the one who was framed and get rid of it cleanly. At the end, the one who was blamed was Shen Dongling and the one who suffered was Wang Bai. Shen Yu was a free person and perhaps she could gain sympathy. Even though Shen Yu was not satisfied that the Wang family did not make a ruckus and did not let Shen Dongling suffer a loss, but to be able to let her completely get rid of this marriage, Shen Yu was already satisfied. Shen Wan's brows furrowed tightly. The attitude of this burly woman clearly represented the attitude of the Wang clan. The Wang family now wanted Shen Dongling to live with Shen Yu's identity. Then what about Shen Yu? The Wang family were usually not such harsh people. Could it be that Shen Dongling said something to Wang Bai? Chen Roqiu sneered, "All right. Just like what you all said, the one who is married into the residence is second young lady and I am second young lady's mother. Everything is fine, so why would one send Wan Yinyang over? Don't you find it ridiculous to send a Yinyang over?" Wan Yinyang looked at the woman with some fear. That woman however smiled. "It is like this. Eldest young mistress said that even though there is no blood relation with Wan Yinyang, but she was very close to Wan Yinyang. Now that she had just married into another family, she was not used to it, so she brought Wan Yinyang over for a short stay." Eldest young master felt sorry for eldest young mistress and agreed. Chapter 622. Such a reason to lie without batting an eyelid, but it was like a ruthless slap on the third household's face. Especially Shen Yu. She originally thought that after Shen Dongling married over, the Wang family would make things difficult and despise Shen Dongling in every possible way because of her marrying a Shu daughter, but did not think that Shen Dongling would actually mix around in the Wang family. To her, this was like a great irony. Didn't you not want to marry into the Wang residence? Apologies. The one that our eldest young master likes is not you. Eldest young mistress is loved and respected by others, and even without you in the Wang residence, she can still live well. Shen Yu gritted her teeth and was somewhat unreconciled. Originally she tried all ways and means to let Shen Dongling replace herself, but when she saw that Shen Dongling might obtain the favor of the Wang family, Shen Yu was not happy. Humans most likely had a kind of strange heart. Even if one did not want it, one would not want others to easily obtain it. Everyone in the Shen family was stunned. Today they expected that the Wang family would fly into a rage when they found out about the matter and fall out with the Shen residents, but they did not expect that the Wang family would have such an attitude. Not only did the Wang family not hate Shen Dongling, but they were very dissatisfied with the third household of the Shen family. There was ridicule in the open and in the dark. Chen Roqiu still wanted to speak but was stopped by Shen Wan. Shen Wan said, "Since that is the case, I will go over tomorrow to explain." Before this, one hoped that the in-laws would be more rational and not be blinded by anger. The dark-skinned strong woman smiled and said, "What is third master saying?" "Right now, the residence is lively and sweet. Master and Furen are very happy, saying that the daughter raised in your residence is excellent. How could they be angry? I'm afraid third master is worrying too much. This dark strong female was also a talent, and one sentence made Shinwan choke. She patted Wan Yinyang's hands and smiled at old Shin Furen. This servant will now bring Wan Yinyang back and hope that old Furen will approve. Eldest young master is in the residence waiting for this servant to return and report. She actually brought out Wang Bai's name. Old Shin Furen frowned as she looked at Shinwan and Shingui. She also faintly felt that today's matter was somewhat strange. After all, Shinwan was Shin Yu's father and Wan Yinyang was a person from the second household, thus she could only make a decision to her two sons. Shingui was unable to come up with any ideas and Shinwan's face was gloomy, but he said, since that is the case, Wan Yinyang will follow along. It is rare that a child has such a heart. These words were neither yin nor yang, but it made one's back turn cold. Wan Yinyang was half pleasantly surprised and half frightened. She was pleasantly surprised because the Wang family did not seem to intend to pursue Shin Dongling's wrongdoings, and she was frightened because she did not know if the Wang family deliberately did this or if it was to express their dissatisfaction and deliberately anger the third household. At the end, Shin Dongling would still be the one to be sacrificed. The dark strong woman did what she said and brought Wan Yinyang away in front of everyone in the Shin family. Rong Jingtang was silent, and after a moment old Shin Furen said coldly, "What exactly is going on?" The strange attitude of the Wang clan was even more unsettling than if they had torn off all pretense of cordiality. Chang Sai-ching moved her lips and seemed to want to say something, but after seeing Shinwan's expression, she swallowed the words that were at the tip of her tongue. Shingui was somewhat embarrassed. Originally it was Shin Dongling who snatched Shin Yu's marriage, and he wanted to hand Shin Dongling mother and daughter over to the Wang family, so that the Wang family and the third household could appease their anger, but one did not think that there would be such a situation. Shingui coughed twice. Later I will write a letter to Dongling and see what kind of matter she is doing. Shinwan smiled and looked at Shin Yu before softly saying, "Yue, follow me back to the room first." He turned his head to look at old Shin Furen and said, "Mother, the Wang family's matter cannot be rashly done. After this son personally visit tomorrow to apologize, one think that the matter can be easily solved. It is all this son's fault to disturb this elderly." Chapter 623. How can you be blamed for this? Old Shin Furen sighed and her tone suddenly became unhappy. It is all because of this third girl. Following that slut Wan Shi, she learned these things that cannot be shown in public. She then complained to Chen Roqiu, "If you were more serious in handling matters, then third girl would not have taken advantage of the loophole." Chen Roqiu had a stomach full of anger because of Shin Yu's matter and felt wronged and heartache. Now that she was being scolded by old Shin Furen, she retorted, "How can mother blame me? I also did not think that third lady would have such thoughts. Mother is really too muddle-headed to blame this matter on me." "You say that I am muddle-headed?" Old Shin Furen was furious. Chen Roqiu still wanted to speak but was shouted at by Shinwan, "Enough." She was slightly surprised for a moment. For so many years, Shinwan had never said such harsh words to her, and this was the first time he shouted at her. Shinwan said, "Yue, follow me back to the room." Shin Yu timidly complied. Chang Zhaoqing, who was at the side, saw this scene and an imperceptible smile floated on her lips. Shin Yu followed Shinwan back to the room and Shinwan's back faced her without speaking. Shin Yu thought that Shinwan was unhappy about the Wang family's matter. Thinking of the Wang family's attitude today and thinking that Shin Dongling might have gained the favor of the Wang family and was using her identity to benefit from both sides, Shin Yu was extremely dissatisfied. She said, "Father, that Wang family is clearly using their power to bully others and did not put you in their eyes. What kind of words were said today?" In the future, if third younger sister were to use my identity to live, then what should I do? Third younger sister snatched my marriage and now she still wants to snatch my identity. Father, you cannot ignore me. Shin Yu's words could be said as a matter of course. Perhaps it was because she had told so many lies that she believed it. Shin Yu almost believed that this matter was started by Shin Dongling and it was Shin Dongling who quietly harmed her. She snatched your marriage. Without turning back, Shin Wan slowly asked. Shin Yu did not hear that Shin Wan's tone was wrong and nodded, exactly. A paw slap landed on Shin Yu's face. When Chen Rochio entered the room and saw this scene, she exclaimed, "Where?" before going forward to hug Shin Yu and roared at Shin Wan, "What are you doing?" "What did I do?" Shin Wan didn't get angry. Instead, he laughed. "Why don't you ask your good daughter what she did?" As Shin Yu covered her face, her body could not help but tremble. Although the handprint on her face was painful, it was nothing compared to the fear in her heart. You dare to say that you didn't know anything about this? Was it really Shin Dongling who harmed you and stole your marriage? Do you really think your cunning tricks can fool everyone? You let Shin Dongling marry on your behalf and you only want to marry Prince Ding. Have you ever thought of offending the Wang family? So what if I, your father, am offended? Without this marriage, how will you get married in the future? I, Shin Wan, have such an intelligent and good daughter like you. It is really a blessing that I have cultivated in my previous life. Shin Wan was a civil official and his looks were not bad. Normally he would have a cultured and refined appearance and had always doted on Shin Yu. This was the first time he showed such a ferocious expression to Shin Yu. Chen Rochio trembled as she looked at Shin Yu in her embrace and asked, Is what your father said true? I just want freedom. Shin Yu whispered in fear and suddenly thought of something before raising her head, but Shin Dongling also tempted me. Now the Wang family's attitude towards us is obviously instigated by Shin Dongling. It is all because of Shin Dongling, that slut. Shut up. The more Shin Wan heard, the angrier he got. You are stupid and still blame others. All the books that you have read have gone into a dog's stomach. Shin Yu had never met such a ferocious Shin Wan and her eyes immediately turned red. Ever since Chen Rochio heard that Shin Yu admitted that it was she who wanted to exchange marriage, she closed her eyes in despair. She did not expect that Shin Yu would be so daring to do such a thing. But Shin Yu was after all a daughter that crawled out from her womb and had been carefully taught for so many years. Chen Rochio only had this one daughter, so when she heard Shin Wan blaming her, she could not help but say, even though Yuer is wrong, she is also not sensible. I think that Yuer is right. Shin Dongling was clearly deliberately seducing Yuer, and one feared that this matter was all planned by Shin Dongling. Chapter 624. Shin Wan pressed his forehead and his gaze towards Chen Rochio was filled with disappointment. He said, "When did you become unable to distinguish right from wrong?" Chen Rochio was surprised for a moment. She only heard Shin Wan continuing, "Never mind. Tomorrow I will personally visit the Wang family to apologize. But I do not know if this matter will succeed. After all, it is our Shin family's fault first, and if it does not succeed, then it is your own fault." Finishing speaking, he glanced at Shin Yu before turning and leaving with a brush of his sleeves. Chen Rochio was alarmed by Shin Wan's disappointed eyes when he left. She still wanted to say something, but Shin Wan had already left the room. Looking at the sobbing Shin Yu, she could only turn her head to comfort her daughter. When Shin Wan left the room, the servant beside saw his exhausted appearance and asked, "Does this lord want to go out of the residence to relax?" "No need." Shin Wan waved his hands and after thinking for a while, said, "Go to the western courtyard." The western courtyard was currently the courtyard where Chang Zaiqing stayed. The manservant did not speak and silently brought Shinwan to the west courtyard. These two people did not see that there was a person looking at their back from afar. This person was Zhang Mama, who was by old Shinfuran's side in Rongjing Tang. Zhang Mama muttered to herself in doubt, why would third master go to the western courtyard? The farce that happened in the early morning in the Shin residence quickly spread to Shin Miao's ears. At the beginning when the Shin residence was separated, Shin Miao also picked some maids from the second and third household and even from Rongjing Tang. Chen Roqiu's ability to manage the household was not as good as Ren Wanyun's. At the beginning when Ren Wanyun was managing official matters, every courtyard, especially Kai Yun Yuan, was like an iron bucket and it was difficult to insert spies. When Chen Roqiu managed the Shin residence, it was like a plate of loose sand. In addition, with the sudden decrease in income and expenditure of the Shin residence, the servants did not live as well as in the past. As long as Shin Miao took out some money, it was a very common thing to bribe the servants. Moreover, what she wanted to ask was not any confidential matters, but only the big and small matters that happened in the Shin residence. As long as one inquired a little, one would be able to find out. After the second household of the Shin family declined, it was the third household that supported the Shin family. Chen Roqiu usually had the bearing of a matriarch of the household, and Shin Yu was even more outstanding because there were no other sisters competing with her. He didn't know if it was because he had lived a comfortable life for too long that his brain wasn't enough. For example, Shin Yu's move this time was really terrible. After this matter, Shinwan really did as he said. The next day, he went to the Wang family to apologize. She didn't know what kind of excuse he had prepared, but he probably wanted to tactfully push all the blame onto Shin Dongling. Who knew that this time, the Wang family would give Shinwan a tight slap? The Wang family did not accept Shinwan's apology, as the Wang family did not even acknowledge Shin Yu. They had to say that Shin Dongling was the daughter of the third household, and as for Shin Yu, apologies, they did not know her at all. Shinwan was extremely embarrassed. He could tell that the other party was deliberately finding fault with him. He understood even more that the Wang family already knew that the exchange of marriage was proposed by Shin Yu, so they deliberately made things difficult for him. Shinwan thought that with his relationship with the Wang family, he would be able to put on airs for a while and the Wang family would eventually exchange Shin Yu and Shin Dongling back, but this time Shinwan guessed wrongly. Thus at the end there were two solutions. One was that Shin Dongling would marry over with Shin Yu's identity and the real Shin Yu would no longer be seen in front of the world. This naturally made Shinwan unable to accept it. Then there was the second solution. Shin Yu would also marry into the Wang family with the name of a Pinchi. Because everyone had participated in Shin Yu and Wang Bai's marriage, this time the real Shin Yu's marriage need not be big and others would think that it was a Shu daughter marrying, thus it was so low-key. Chapter 625. This method almost made Shinwan leave in a huff. It was not unheard of for a daughter and a Shu daughter to serve the same husband, but in general, it was the daughter who was the wife and the Shu daughter who was the concubine. What the Wang family proposed was an equal wife. Moreover, in order to deceive others, Shin Yu wanted to hold the marriage with the identity of a Shu daughter, and Shin Dongling, who was a Shu daughter, had snatched away the honor that Shin Yu should have. This was a humiliation. Shinwan flatly refused, but the Wang clan's attitude was also very firm. After all, it was not the Wang family's fault for mistaking the bride. Now Shin Dongling and Wang Bai were getting along well, thus they did not care about Shin Yu. But the Wang family could drag it on, but Shin Yu could not. If this goes on, the one who would suffer would only be Shin Yu. Thus Shinwan was somewhat hesitant and quarreled with Chen Roqiu several times over this matter. As Bai Lu was talking to Shin Miao about the things that came back from the Shin residence, she was also looking at Shin Miao's overjoyed look. Shin Miao had always been calm and it was rare for her to be this happy, as if she was really happy. The young lady is amused. Bai Lu said, this time second young lady has also lifted a rock to smash her own feet, causing so much trouble for no reason, giving third master a headache all day long. If you ask me, it's still third miss who got lucky. Shuang Jiang said, third young lady not only fished up an official's foreign, but also received the concern of the Wang family from top to bottom and even brought Wan Yinyang over. It is really glorious. That's hard to say. Bai Lu shook her head. If second young lady also marries into the Wang family, even though they are equal wives, there is still a difference between Di and Shu. Third miss only had one concubine while second miss at least had third master as her maiden family. In the end, the Wang family would be biased towards second Mississippi. Third miss may be pleased with herself now, but the days ahead are long. Shen Miao smiled. Wrong, third older sister is a powerful person. Bai Lu and Shuang Jiang looked at Shen Miao together. Shen Miao said, even if there is a day when Shen Yu marries into the Wang family, she would definitely not be comparable to Shen Dongling. I think that the reason why the Wang family would treat the third household so coldly was because the Wang family knew that the matter of exchanging marriages was suggested by Shen Yu. Which man in the world would like a wife who disliked him? Even a man's dignity would not allow it. And for people like Shen Yu and Shen Dongling, when they married into another residence, before they gave birth to a child, they could only rely on Wang Bai's favor. Unfortunately, Shen Yu has already lost. Shen Yu is not able to get Wang Bai's favor, and one fear that Wang Bai would not let her give birth easily. Even though there is a difference between the Di and Shu, but as the same wife, whoever gives birth to the child first would naturally be the one to make the decision. Shen Miao said lightly, moreover with Shen Yu's brains, how would she be able to compete with Shen Dongling? Now that Shen Dongling is able to pull herself out of this matter, and was able to make Wang Bai not blame her, and even bring Wan Yinyang out of the Shen residence, and was able to throw back all the dirty water that the third household threw at her. How could such a powerful person be defeated in Shen Yu's hands? Bai Lu and Shuang Jiang were both surprised, and after a long while, Shuang Jiang said, it seems that third young lady is indeed a powerful person. She is the only one in the Shen residence who has some prospects. Shen Miao said, help me to grind the ink. Bai Lu went ahead to find the scented ink, and as she was grinding it, she saw Shen Miao taking out a brush and paper, as if she was going to write something. Bai Lu asked, is young lady going to write a letter? Shen Miao declined to comment. Naturally Shen Yu had created such a big wave of trouble for herself, which made Shen Miao feel happy. But she did not forget that in the previous lifetime, the third household also contributed a lot in the downfall of the Shen family's first household. There would be a day when she would get her revenge for this big gift. Actually, not only the third household knew how to hit someone when they were down, she also knew how to do it. She did not want to do it herself from the beginning to the end, but if the third household were to force her to do it herself, she would not mind letting the third household walk faster. Shen Wan and Chen Roqiu quarreled all day long, and at this time, they needed the comfort of a confidant. It was time for Zhang Ziqing to go on stage. Chapter 626. The matter of Shen Yu and Shen Dongling exchanging marriage eventually caused unimaginable consequences. Under the Wang family's request, Shen Wan could only helplessly agree to let Shen Yu marry over as a Pin Fei. One did not know what Shen Dongling had said to the Wang family, but the Wang family was not willing to listen to Shen Wan's explanation. A good marriage could not end up as enmity, so Shen Wan had no other choice. But this was not the result that Shen Yu wanted. This time, there was no one else who could exchange marriage with Shen Yu, so Shen Yu simply shed all pretense of cordiality and quarreled all day long that she was not willing to marry into the Wang family, and could not tolerate Shen Dongling to be on equal footing with her. Not only was Shen Yu unwilling, Chen Roqiu was also very angry. Chen Roqiu was considered a person who knew the big picture normally, but this matter concerned Shen Yu's lifelong matter, so she could not tolerate it and insisted that Shen Wan go to the Wang family for an explanation. The third household's husband and wife, who had always been affectionate, had frequent conflicts these days, which made the servants in Qiu Shui Yuan not dare to breathe loudly. It was the same today. Chen Roqiu paced back and forth in the room and suddenly turned to Shen Wan and said anxiously, "What is the Wang family thinking now? One cannot let Yue drag on like this. Shen Dongling, that little slut, is occupying our Yue's reputation. Could it be that she still wants to be a proper young furin? Master, go to the Wang family to argue." She kept saying little slut, which was totally different from her usual good upbringing and mannerisms. Shen Wan could not help but frown. He said patiently, "At this moment, one can only let Yue marry over as a pin fei before making any other plans. You quarrel all day like this, Yue will not be at peace, so there is no other way." "Master!" Chen Roqiu screamed, "Yue is also your daughter and also the property daughter of our third household, and one had watched her grow up like a pearl or jade. How can you say to let her be a pin fei, moreover to be on equal footing with that little slut, Shen Dongling? Even if this matter is Yue's fault, there must be a reason for Shen Dongling's seduction. How can you be so heartless?" It seemed that Chen Roqiu's voice pierced his ears and Shen Wan said angrily, "Then what do you say? The longer the matter was delayed, the one who would suffer would be you, Just like what you said, if it gets out, Shen Dongling, a Shu daughter, will not be affected at all, but Yue will be pointed at and laughed at by others and the Shen residents will also become a joke. What about you?" Chen Roqiu jumped in shock from Shen Wan's angry voice and somewhat shrunk back, but when she thought of Shen Yu, she said, "But one cannot let Yue suffer a loss like this. No, I have to go to the Wang mansion myself." "Enough." Shen Wan angrily said, "You stay in the residence well and look after Shen Yu. Not giving me any trouble is the right way." Chen Roqiu was stunned. After living with Shen Wan for so many years, even when he was the angriest, Shen Wan had never said such words to her. It was as if he was disgusted and impatient. Her heart tightened and she subconsciously said, "You and I are young husband and wife. We used to love each other, and we agreed that we wouldn't take concubines. Now, you're saying that I've lost my beauty. Mother keeps saying that I'm going to take a concubine for you. Are you tempted? Are you disgusted by me?" Chen Roqiu had always been a little small-minded. Even though she was from a scholarly family, she loved to have a small temper and Shen Wan also liked this. After a long period of sweet days, it was inevitable that it would be boring. If one were to put on an act that was just right, it would make men feel pity for her. Unfortunately, this pretense was fun to sit on when he was young, but when he was old, it was a little unappetizing. Especially these few days Chen Roqiu had been running around because of Shen Yu's matter and her complexion was a lot more haggard and did not take care of herself. In addition to that rude and shrewish scene just now, in Shen Wan's eyes, it was somewhat ridiculous. He looked at Chen Roqiu lightly and said, "If you want to think like that, then think like that." He then turned and left with a flick of his sleeves.